Phil Martino. Mitchell Moschenberg is the co-founder of a new company out of Newmarket, Ontario, which launched in March of this year, right in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. WeCleanCovid19.ca provides a deep cleaning and sanitation service for new builds, rental units, and community homes, including non-organizations like Regeneration Community Services. The company offers its services to that charity free of charge.
My partner Lou and myself have been in the construction industry, each of us for 25 years. We've been involved in all kinds of abatement projects, deconstruction, demolition, and construction that involved the abatement of asbestos and mold over the years. So for us, this was actually a no-brainer.
He says they provide different levels of cleaning.
So for instance, if it's a home, a residential home, we provide a level 1 cleaning program, which essentially means that there's no impact on the site or no impact has been identified. In other words, nobody with COVID-19 had identified as living there. So this is a precautionary cleaning only. If somebody calls us and informs us that there's a confirmed contamination, that becomes what's called a level 3 cleaning and sanitization, and that has to be assessed on a case-by-case basis.
And so far, so good.
Business is brisk for us. We're very busy right now working with new home builders and the real estate industry, and essentially we are cleaning and sanitizing homes that are ready to be turned over to their new owners.
Mitchell Moschenberg is the co-founder of WeCleanCovid19.ca. At the Business Center, I'm Phil Martino.
This is your breaking news station, 680 News. Hi, it's Tony Chapman, host of the podcast Chatter That Matters. Thanks to the incredible support of RBC, we're focusing on the heart of the Canadian economy, small businesses. Joe Bryan captains a whale-watching ecotourism operation out of St. John's, Newfoundland.
It's like going to the edge of the earth.
Question, how do you keep the boats afloat?
Instead of taking bookings, we're giving back their reservations and we're sending their money back to the guests.
Our experts jump on board with advice that anybody working in tourism, hospitality, retailer services will want to hear. Download Chatter That Matters wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks again to RBC for your support of Small Business Matters.
I can't tell if this is my ribs.
Overcast in Brampton, 6 degrees. Hamilton seeing some cloud cover and 7. Oakville, late rain, 7 degrees. Richmond, Hill, mostly cloudy and 5. Right now in downtown Toronto, a few clouds and 4.
Wow.
680 News, the CFTR AM Toronto. Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day and always be in the know. You can also find out how to hear us on your smart speaker phone or HD radio at 680news.com/listen. At the double tone, 680 News Time, 11:30.
Number 1 for news in Toronto. This is 680 News.
Good evening. This is Saturday, May the 9th. I'm Carlin Donahue. And I'm Eden Tababa. Here's what's making news this hour. You can't camp yet, but Ontario Parks and Conservation Reserves are reopening for day use just in time for the May long weekend.
Ontario's newest COVID-19 data shows the lowest one-day tally of cases in more than a month. But there's worry some are relaxing on physical distancing too soon.
A car fire in Toronto's East End this evening has left Toronto police investigating. Education Minister Stephen Lecce is saying members of all school boards in the province are now encouraged to volunteer at long-term care homes.
Florida plays host to UFC 249. The NBA looks at different scenarios, and the Raptors can open their practice facility Monday. Sports at 45.
And coming up in business, if you're still struggling with working from home, a tech expert and author offers some tips on how to make the most of it. 680 News Time, 11:31. Time for traffic and weather together. Here's Colette Desjardins.
Thanks in this report brought to you by 407 ETR. We're looking good right now on the expressways around the GTA. Everything lightly traveled. Just a construction spot southbound 404 at 16th Avenue. 2 right lanes are blocked, no delays. But if you're on 16th Avenue, the routes to the southbound 404 remain closed. Some good news in town. St. Clair has reopened both ways, confirmed now by police. St. Clair was closed between Glenburn and Victoria Park, but everything has since reopened. And if you're traveling right now on northbound Don Mills at Fairview, we've got the left turn lane and the 2 left lanes blocked for construction. 407 ETR is proud to be United Way's first corporate partner in Canada to make a multi-year investment, sending $4 million to help the GTHA recover from COVID-19. Right now, your next report will be at 11:41, but right now, let's get the weather. Here's Jason Fraser.
We'll continue to see some cloud cover across the GTA tonight, but not expecting any heavy rain or snow like we saw earlier today. Overnight, we'll see some clouds and temperatures dipping below the freezing mark. Our overnight low tonight is -2.
Right now in downtown Toronto, a few clouds, 3 degrees, but feeling more like -2 with the wind. And at Pearson Airport, similar conditions and 1. 680 News Time, 11:32. You'll be able to take in the great outdoors over the long weekend next week and for free before government approving the reopening of provincial parks. But use will still be limited. 680's Michelle Mackey joins us now with more. More than 500 provincial parks and conservation reserves are set to reopen on Monday. Premier Ford giving day use for walking, biking, and hiking the green light, but setting some strict limitations as well.
Camping, playgrounds, and beaches will continue to be closed.
Ford says he's trusting people to follow public health measures, including physical distancing within the parks. Jeff Urich, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, also asks that you come prepared.
While staff are working as hard as they can to get provincial parks ready to open, they will not have washrooms or drinkable water right away. It's important that you come to the park prepared with hand sanitizer, extra water, and other supplies.
Roman says the slow phase-in approach to opening parks will help ensure the health and safety of visitors and staff. I'm Michelle Mackey, 680 News Time, 11:33. And we have an update from Toronto's East End, where Toronto police are investigating a fiery vehicle crash. As Toronto Police Constable Alex Lee tells us, the collision happened.
St. Clair Avenue East at Glenburn Avenue. The initial call involved reports of 2 vehicles being involved.
One car burst into flames and Toronto Fire put it out. Police officers are investigating.
This is 680 News. Ontario has implemented an emergency order allowing school employees to be voluntarily redeployed to congregate care settings. The government says institutions such as hospitals, long-term care homes, retirement homes, and women's shelters are in need of staff, including custodial and maintenance workers. Laura Walton, president of QB's Ontario School Board Council of Unions, says the work wouldn't include clinical care.
Things like doing recreational support for residents in long-term care and retirement homes, where they're connecting them with their family through iPads and FaceTime and Skype, that kind of thing.
Staff who voluntarily redeploy would maintain their employment with the school board and continue to receive their compensation and benefits. 680 News Time, 11:35. It's another step in the right direction. Non-essential businesses beginning to open and curbside pickup becoming the new norm. But as 680 Stuart McGinn reports, health officials are still weary as the signs of community spread continue.
The lowest daily tally in more than a month. That's the highlight for Ontario, seeing 346 new cases today, along with 59 new deaths, while the record number of tests were completed, surpassing 19,000 for the first time. It comes after a spike in cases yesterday, where 55% of them were linked to community spread. Still a concern for Ontario's top doctor.
There's a tendency to let your guard down and then get that exposure, and you find out that that group that you're with, that you shouldn't have been with, you found out later someone was positive. So I think there's some ongoing transmission there.
Dr. David Williams says it's perplexing that the province still isn't making major headway on this, adding if people aren't taking physical distancing seriously, this all could last even longer. Still good news as the number of new cases continues to see a decline, and Ontario takes another slow step of its own, allowing hardware and other supply stores to reopen today. I'm Stuart McGinn.
After they began mass testing last week, Toronto Western Hospital is reporting another outbreak of COVID-19. A Toronto Star reporting the hospital had previously declared outbreaks in 4 different units with 19 patients and 46 employees testing positive in total. It's currently unknown how many have tested positive at this time after the most recent outbreak. A hospital outbreak can be declared when there are at least 2 hospital-acquired cases within 14 days.
Some good news for Canadians who've been unable to return home during the pandemic. Lori Pears of the Canadian Press.
Dozens of Canadians working on 2 cruise ships prevented from docking due to COVID-19 concerns are finally being allowed to return home. Princess Cruises says it will supply flights or rides home to 19 Canadians who disembarked from the Cummings Dam in Los Angeles on Friday. Another 53 Canadians are scheduled to leave the Emerald Princess in Fort Lauderdale, Florida today and will be flown to Toronto on a chartered flight. From the Canadian Press, I'm Lori Harris.
Some businesses may be reopening, but many are still suffering from the pandemic. Actividad of City News spoke with Ashley Lloyd, the co-owner of the White Lily Diner in Toronto, about how they've managed to stay afloat.
The owners here are preparing for what a post-pandemic dining experience may look like, but they say depending on what the new guidelines are, even if they have customers in these seats, many businesses may still not survive. Co-owner Ashley Lloyd had to lay off her entire staff back in March when dine-in services in the city were forced to shut down. In the weeks since, she and her partner have been keeping their heads above water through government subsidies, and more recently by offering specialized meal kits. They're now turning their attention towards how they'll be able to offer safe service in their small, intimate diner.
Whether or not it's, whether it's every other table that can be set, if it's got, the physical distancing, if it's all of our staff having to wear masks and gloves, plexiglass partitions between booths.
But with so little revenue, they haven't yet made investments in those changes until firm guidelines are given.
Yeah, you're stupid to do that.
The labor market has been greatly impacted by this pandemic. Statistics Canada reporting more than 3 million jobs have been lost.
Ministers, families, children, and social development, Ahmed Hussein says this is immensely concerning.
We understand the impact that has on individuals, on families. We sympathize each and every person.
Now, once we get past this pandemic, he says employment recovery depends on each sector of the economy. However,
there's no question that this pandemic has already had a significant impact on our job market.
So the Trudeau government is hopeful the support they have provided to workers and businesses will
enable a strong and quick recovery.
And they will continue to be there for all Canadians, families, and businesses. I'm Tim Hurd.
The anti-lockdown protest returns to Queen Park in Toronto today, demanding an end to emergency orders. For the third weekend in a row, a crowd arrived to wave signs about their displeasure surrounding what they consider to be a social issue. 2 weeks ago, Premier Doug Ford referred to anti-lockdown protesters as yahoos as they gathered around Queen's Park in a similar fashion.
So you don't have anything for Mother's Day tomorrow. Don't worry, no judgment here. 680's Tim Chapman's here to help.
Okay, sure. You're running out of time, but that doesn't mean you're out of luck. There's lots of ways you can show your mom that you care. Give Mom a break, have breakfast delivered. Besides, you don't need to be Gordon Ramsay to make eggs and toast.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Come on, man.
Just need
Where's the lamb sauce?
All right, Gordon. Well, if you don't have lamb sauce, go sentimental with a framed photo of a special moment, or even take it one step further, make a photo album. Maybe you're not too crafty, no worries. Go with Old Faithful, make some flowers, and a handwritten card.
Macaroni necklace, macaroni necklace.
FaceTime, and that's a surefire way to give her a smile on her special day. I'm Tim Chapman.
Local news, weather, and traffic as it happens.
680 News. It's now time for your gas price update. Empro predicts the price will stay the same at midnight, holding at 92.9 cents a liter at most GTA stations. Traffic and weather together next. 680 News time, 11:40.
You have more important things to do than be stuck in traffic.
Listen for up-to-date traffic reports only on 680 News.
With the economic impact of COVID-19 deepening, food banks across Canada are concerned about not having enough food to meet the demand, with many reporting only a 2-week supply remaining. That's why Rogers is partnering with Food Banks Canada in this critical time of need by donating 1 million meals for our fellow Canadians. Let's do what we can. It's time to step up to the plate and donate at foodbankscanada.ca. Together, we can make more possible.
Traffic reports every 10 minutes on the clock.
Traffic alerts at once. This
is 680 News.
680 News time, 11:41. Traffic and weather together. Here's Colette. Thanks, and this traffic report is brought to you by Canadian Women's Foundation. Right now, it seems very difficult to see, but it's not causing.
Yeah. The derelict. You're now rocking with the illest. You're now rocking with the illest. You're now rocking with the illest. Yeah, check it. Yeah, check it. What? Yo, welcome to my spot. You're now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top cause I'm oh so fresh. Just be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Welcome to my spot. You're now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top cause I'm oh so fresh. Just be the type of dude putting stress on your chest, man. Like every minute to every second of every way. Like every minute of every second of every day. I'm looking for new words. I'm looking for new verbs. I'm looking for something to write out so I can just splurge. Like every fucking time that I write another line, another cry, another rhyme, just to soothe my fucking mind. Staying sublime with every round that I write. Every time I hit the mic, I get a feeling excited. My heart to make it palpitate, make it jump and thump. Every time I'm bumping something, you gon' bump it in your trunk. Understand that the stuff I make are some instant hits. You can never get to this, not even a little bit. The derelict, the shaman, and all my homies too, bringing noises to your city that you only wish to ever achieve. The dreams that you have can't compare. We're blinded, y'all, so be scared of this flare. Yo, welcome to my spot, and I'm rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. Just be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Welcome to my spot, and I'm rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Game on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. I be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. I'm from the part of town where the gangsters, they rule the scene, working day and night like Kid Cudi for the cream. Always to themselves, be like a bumble. I'm about my hustle, but stay real and humble. Making hits in a group just to chase goals. Making hits in this life ensures that I hold onto everything that I once loved. Everything that I once loved, just because it means to me, my personality being that I'm one fiend for this fucking rapping shit. Rapping machine, it might seem like I'm quite obscene, but whenever rocking the mic, I'm always hyping the scene. By any means, the climb and the gleam and the flicker. You can understand it, I spit it quicker. I'm a liquor sipper, get myself drunk and retarded and crazy, while all you rappers sit back, talk shit and be lazy. Yo, welcome to my spot, you're now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. Just be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Welcome to my spot, you're now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. I be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Stress on your chest from seeing these moves I make, cause the time that it takes is not enough for a fucking break. Go and eight, go bananas for some of this money, cause I've been feeling lately that I'm quite a dummy. Looking for something, but something's leaving me wrong. Feeling like I'm losing my soul in every fucking song, cause every time I spit it, say I quit it to my skills, and people understand I'm gonna be clocking them bills. Don't talk about paper because paper's not what I'm after. I'm after the fucking transaction of being a rapper, the dopest there ever was. The dopest just because there's everybody around here treating mature like peach fuzz and rapping about everything. Some pretenders and offenders are the people that are trying to be the predators of a society that's mixed up with so much crime, and all the time in my mind is not enough to make it divine. Yo, welcome to my spot, and now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. Just be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Welcome to my spot, and now rocking with the illest. E-block boy who be keeping it the realest. Stay on top, cause I'm oh so fresh. I be the type of dude putting stress on your chest. Putting stress on your chest. The derelicts, low rise records, 306 stand up. Yeah.
Niggas since kindergarten liars. Shoot stupid, kick spin retarded. I make the coke black when I'm in the market. I I make the price drop like I'm in the Target. I'm like a holy prophet trying to make a profit. Rough rider, legendary prospect. I ain't where I'm yet. Shout out my gunman, friend, yo. 10-4-5s in my extender. 2 extra clips for the extra shit. And each whole 7, you getting blessed with it. Yeah, I got so much beef, my ex was stressed with it. Right, it was eye for an eye. Old Testament word. The bottom of wells, my heart dwells. Treating these waters like shark tails. Word. My homie got lashed, was all bail. I had waved the shit. Got tobacco with full bail. The rats used to see me on range and go tell. Catch him at court, stopping with Jordans like Montel. Swear to God, I would never pray to Jesus. For the extras, I'ma scrape the people. Every day I pay for new AKs, like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs, El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs, like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs, El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs, like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs, El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs, like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Look, the hottest.
Ah. Oh yeah, I can't mean some ways I can move. So some of that's my rib and some of it's whatever's up under where I thought my lung was. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna smoke my way through it. Fuck it. All the people telling me not to are the same people telling me I shouldn't even exist. And nothing but horrible things to say. Ah, fuck. It's gonna be freezing. Fuck that.
Kid didn't. Flash niggas since kindergarten liars. Shoot stupid kicks in retard. I make the coke black when I'm in the market. I make the price drop like I'm in the Target. I'm like a holy prophet trying to make a profit. Rough rider, legendary prospect. I ain't where I'm yet. Shout out my gunman, friend, yo. 10-4-5s in my extender. 2 extra clips for the extra shit. And each whole 7, you getting blessed with it. Yeah, I got so much beef, my ex was stressed with it. Right, it was eye for an eye. Old Testament word. The bottom of wells, my heart dwells. Treating these waters like shark tails. Word. My homie got lashed, was all bail. I had waved the shit. Got tobacco with full bail. The rats used to see me on range and go tell. Catch him at court, stopping with Jordans like Montel. Swear to God, I would never pray to Jesus. For the extras, I'ma skip the people. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs.
Look, the hottest kid in the kitchen, I've been nice. Lots of you double crossing me, think twice. Gold chains, gold in my mouth, case full of ammunition. Cocaine on my nosebleed, that's a Kathy Griffin. Bullets light up the night sky and they blame me, boy. Magnums in the back of the whip, they call me baby boy. My ATL sending your section 80, boy. The fuck do you think the mafia pay me for? Young, rich, and handsome, bullets like an anthem. When they started singing, everybody put their hands up. Ain't nobody been doing the shit that I do. God, boy, how many hoes can I fit inside you? Scratched up with lines around them like the kids of vinyl. Put up with the Mac and fry them like the shit's a drive-thru. Angels will find you, but I would never pray to Jesus. For the extras, I'ma scrape the beat, cause, yeah.
Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Like Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs.
The Vancouver coin with the sports shirt. Low rise from 1918, the Churchill coin. All three of those tells me don't trust nobody.
Slow rise. Drop it, drop it, drop it. Yeah. Low rise records, baby. SDLOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement. It's the LOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement. It's like a movie, how I do it, steady pursuing this fictional plot. Blistering hot, rap my warrior raps. Each song is another brick for the fortified wall. United we stand, united we fall, so fuck them all. I stay ahead of my game, ahead of my time. I feel the drive in my brain, you feel the force in my line. If this gang make you clean with the envy you all, cause every bar I fucking write comes from my soul. I try my hardest just to lace these tracks with such grace. I often question myself, just to see if it's a waste. Test myself sometimes, past the limits of control, but do it all at any cost. Just they're going on with me, I gotta do it, and I'm heavily pursuing the stream. But every fucking time I do it, it seems it gleams past the fucking point of observation. Now I'm steadily taking out you faggots that behave. It's the LOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement. It's the LOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement.
No one thought I had skills, but I proved them all wrong. Another sick script for another sick song. Now I'm rolling with the illest crew in all of Saskatoon. Making hits, making tracks, gonna be famous soon. The tightest tracks you heard coming from low rise. Gotta please the people's taste, gotta feed their cries. E-Block, Saskatoon, that's a place, it's our turf. Cause to make it in this game, you can't be insecure. So many people tend to get lost in the tracks, and then nobody helps them and they don't bring it back. But when you hear these tracks, you'll feel right at home. It's for all the underdogs, so they won't feel alone. Nevertheless, I put my rhymes to the test. Should I invest in the quest of becoming the best? Dreamcast and Derelict, bringing you another track, so just turn off your genre if it's something you can hack.
It's the LOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement. It's the LOWRYZE. Make MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do in 306. Stand up if you feeling the movement.
I smoke chronic in hotbox cars, and I still choke writing 16 bars. There's proof of damage, many scars, late at night writing under the stars. Fate fades of war, that's why I'm so hardcore. Too profound to be sold in stores. Me and derelict, the definition of evil. Fierce to the feeble, like the tip of a needle, the way my clothes hit people. I take stages, smear ink all over the pages. You want to battle with the fuck are the wages? I'm serving faceless and violent outrages. Psychologists can't even case this. They say everything I write is tasteless. As time, if anyone spent time to educate this, embrace this like I'm running a 3-ring circus. Everything I drop is surplus, serving its purpose like the Canadian military service. Got you shaking nervous, like there's a hole in your epidermis. No soap for the worthless. Go ahead and say my name, cursed it. Couldn't control it, had to disperse it. Now my shirt's ripped.
It's the LOWRYCA. Making MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do. And your six stand up if you feel in the mood. It's the LOWRYCA. Making MCs freeze, bitch, believe me. You can only wish to do the things that we do. And 306 stand up if you feel in the mood.
Why is it? Mr. West, I don't want your culture or your history. Country here. You give me a different fucking hint depending what country it is. Look at it right there. It's not in alphabetical order. What the fuck?
Body this one, man. A murder chick. Hey.
It's a lot of work to find out about these damn rolling papers.
I give some 10,000 left. Back in the day when a nigga had a stunner, all these fake niggas I can make a dick cook. Yeah, I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Yeah, back in the day when a nigga had a stunner, all these fake niggas I can make a dick cook. Yeah, I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Yeah, all these fake niggas holler when I'm up. No, when I start in my hook, I don't give a fuck. Call me, I'll pick it up. Stomach like it's been rough. Niggas think I won't shoot. Now, bitch, call my bluff. I'm chopping, I'm getting real hot. Dirty strap for the cleans, work like I'm up. Extended clip with the hollows down to my Glock. It's outside, read your part, that's where I rock. Outside, that's where I rock. Extended clip, hang the Glock. Dirty strap, cleans like I'm up. Hey. Coming out with the lava. Hey. Back in the day when a nigga had a stunner, all these fake niggas I can make a damn good. So I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Back in the day when a nigga had a stunner, all these fake niggas I can make a damn good. So I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. One day nigga gon' be rich with my dog. I'm the better get her in a big crib. I don't check a fucking basketball, never fucking cap chicken that head. Nigga, I'ma do a couple laps. Stacking, I'm getting that guap. And nigga talk tough like you're really high. City last week, nigga see you get stopped. Why the fuck you acting like you really on a block? You ain't on a block, he be talking to the cops, trying to get me knocked in. Kicked in the door looking for a gun. Lame ass niggas, you already bums. Go to bed hungry, nigga, are you fucking dumb? Chase that nigga down the block, I made a fucking run. Boys been building shit since I was really young. Kicking doors, stopping niggas just for the fun. Southside, Richard Park, that's where the day when a nigga had his gun. All these fake niggas, I can look at their guts. Yeah, I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Back in the day when a nigga had his gun. All these fake niggas, I can look at their guts. Yeah, I can let it rip, it won't be a first shot. In the hood with my gun, niggas know I lurk. Yeah.
If you want to go to concerts, I don't want to know that. Who gets the money? Black thinking, great secret. This is black thinking. So this is a fucking rolling paper. Okay,
start cyclic, no?
Free up the youth now.
See?
Free sick, free kilo, free John, free OG. Go
hard like Logan. Body DBS. All black on my clothing. X-Men, that's how we roll in. Put it to you, have you jumping like the rose in. But you in your mouth, taking all your gold in. Put it to your next man, now it's neck frozen. Now I'm dipping in and stolen, dripping in, I'm scoping. I see him leave him open. Big large gun, there's no poking. Pop out the pit, your head's open. Now you're floating. The body stays stiff in the ocean. Cruising with some deadly fish, so your body ain't exposing. The DBS I was chosen. It's so hard for the golden. I make watch, don't care if it's stolen. But bam, if you owe him. The black flag always hold him. 5 DB we rolling. 10 guns we be holding. 2 each so we gon' win. A headshot so you gon' spin.
Niggas not tryna see me with the DBS, cause you know the niggas I'm with, get it poppin'. Strap on my waist, you can tell by how I'm walking. Act left, you get lies right in the coffin. I remember, I almost got caught slipping, shit had me tripping. On this block I'm tipping, call it camping, my niggas had me snapping. Now I'm sitting here, plotting on my enemy. Had to get my own strap, niggas ain't fan for me. A fat blunt and some Hennessy, just to level me. This beat sounds heartfelt. Big bullets made the biggest niggas melt. That's a yes, nigga. Up top, nigga.
Every nigga I roll with call them scavengers. Somebody strapped to the beat, so mad at the caliber. Deal with you right, ain't no getting back at us. Do what I gotta, then I'm dipping in the Avenger. Back to the bricks, doing the usual work. Felt like he was trying to hide, so I had to shoot a few. Gotta expect it, you know how down bottom shooters do. Cut the gloves and eat your hoodie, black socks fitted too black. I'm about to get down to my business. Deal with a bunch of ones, no need for a witness. Hand me the ratchet, call me Mr. Fix It. Learn from my bro, no need for shooting if you miss it. Stop complaining, every day is a gift. Every day, no. You got myself in the kitchen, fiends everywhere. Pots whipping, I wanna move bricks, but a nigga hate pitching. The strap I got on my waist stays kicking, and I be trained so I aim with precision. Hit him in the 6-pack, give him up 6 flat, and it's a
global populations is crucial for controlling this and future waves of the virus.
If we are willing to give what it takes to address these weaknesses in long-term care and assisted living homes, and to provide better support to poorly compensated workers in these settings, we stand a better chance of maintaining control of the virus. We will be living with COVID-19 for some time. If we make it a priority to look after the most vulnerable in our society, we can change the outcome of this pandemic and not live in its shadow.
The majority of Canada's COVID-19 deaths have been linked to outbreaks in long-term care homes across the country. Non-essential businesses started to open in Ontario on Saturday, a promising sign towards a return to normal. It comes as that province's case count continues to steady, but signs of community spread are leaving health officials concerned. Stuart McGinn has more.
Today's data shows the smallest number of new cases in more than a month, 346, after a record of more than 19,000 tests were completed, while there were also 59 deaths and 393 new recoveries. It follows a day where numbers spiked and 55% of them were linked to community spread.
It is still perplexing to me that we're not making major headways going down on that. It makes me wonder if people are not being consistent in their physical distancing.
Ontario's top doctor, Dr. David Williams, and his team have maintained that seeing data on community spread go down is what will motivate them to further ease restrictions across the province and take the step into phase 1 of reopening. For now, the small steps continue as Ontario sees this decline in cases. As of today, all hardware and supply stores have reopened their doors. I'm Stuart McGinn.
Get the time
and as you heard, just in time for the long weekend, Ontario's provincial parks and conservation areas are reopening. However, this May long weekend will still feel different as physical distancing will be enforced.
I don't know why it's work on time. Well, we don't have watches.
This Monday, May 11th, will mark the reopening of 520 provincial parks and conservation reserves, with some limitations. Premier Ford says day access only with no camping. Playgrounds, beaches, and facilities remain closed.
Public health measures must be followed at all times, including practicing physical distancing.
Walking, biking, and hiking, however, are a go. Jeff Urich, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, says before visiting a park, visit ontarioparks.ca to find out what's actually available.
We also ask that you stay local. Ontarians should still be reducing the amount of unnecessary travel to other areas of the province.
This month, access to provincial parks and conservation reserves is free for day visitors. I'm Michelle Mackey.
2 more British Columbians have died from COVID-19. BC's top doctor, Bonnie Henry, also announcing 15 new test-positive cases of the virus in the province during her regular update on Saturday. She also talks about Mother's Day.
Let's show how much we care for them by ensuring we are doing all we can do to keep them safe. Safe physical distance remains an important part of what we need to do right now in British Columbia to keep all of our mothers and our communities safe.
The recovery rate from COVID-19 in BC is now 71%, the highest since the pandemic. 60 days afloat on a big boat, wondering when she was going to be able to come home. Renee Bernard reports a North Vancouver cruise ship employee is finally back in Canada.
I feel so great to be
back on land, to tell you the truth. Michelle Jolie is a professional singer and got on the Sky Princess back on February the 20th. Then operation ceased on March the 14th and passengers disembarked. She says the crew spent the next 2 weeks entertaining themselves on board.
We had all sorts of different entertainment. I actually performed for the crew every second day. We had band nights, movie nights, bingo.
But then they were moved onto a different ship and told to self-isolate until the moment they got off the ship in Fort Lauderdale and onto a chartered flight earlier this weekend. Jolie is headed to Northern Alberta, where she will spend the next 14 days in quarantine. 49 Canadians were brought home from the Emerald Princess. I'm Renee Bernard.
In Vancouver, a downtown Eastside park that was home to hundreds of homeless people is now empty. It's part of a provincial order to protect the most vulnerable amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. As Bethlehem Merriam reports, a lot of work still needs to be done.
As of Saturday, there are no more tents pitched at Oppenheimer Park. Hundreds of people have left and moved into hotel rooms. The plan was enacted by the province's Emergency Program Act to move homeless people in Vancouver and Victoria to safer housing. Shane Simpson, Minister of Social Development, says these sites will be used until there are more permanent solutions for housing.
Whether it's acquisition of accommodation to move people into permanently, whether it's modular housing, whether it's other options that might be available.
The eviction order for Victoria's encampments is set for May 20th. I'm Bethlehem Merriam.
And though efforts were made to clean up Oppenheimer Park, it seems those who left have found a new home. A new tent city has popped up on Vancouver's waterfront. As Toby Kerr reports, about 10 tents have been erected on a parking lot outside of Crab Park. Fiona York is with the Carnegie Community Action Project and explains why the tents are there.
So this parking lot is actually federal. It's reserved for private use, but it's a federally owned parking lot. And we basically are calling on the charter, which says that people have a right to shelter, especially during a pandemic.
She says they're hoping the arrival of another tent city will get the province's attention to house more than just those who live at Oppenheimer. She says people with the Port Authority and fire department have made visits. Another sacred fire has been lit, but York believes they were able to secure a permit for it. I'm Toby Kerr. Canada's Indigenous Services Minister says outbreaks of COVID-19 in First Nations communities may have been delayed because of their remoteness. Mark Miller pointed to an outbreak in the northern Saskatchewan community of La Loche that has left more than 100 sickened as an example.
First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities have done an incredible job in responding and preventing outbreaks. Their collective work in this is critical, and our commitment to support them and making sure they have what they need and are able to continue to protect their community members remains steadfast.
Miller said there's a need for better data collection to help protect the communities and understand the spread of the virus among Indigenous people and called on provincial governments to help in that area. It's 10 minutes past the hour. You're listening to All News Radio.
At Tim Hortons, we're proud to serve all of our communities across Canada. And we're thinking about you. That's why we've made some changes recently. So we're offering you delivery from Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes. Two partners proudly serving our communities.
Together, we are making a difference to stop the spread of COVID-19. As businesses and workplaces begin to reopen, we all have to continue doing our part to keep everyone safe. Remember to practice physical distancing or wear a face covering if physical distancing is a challenge, and wash your hands thoroughly and often. Whether inside or out, stay safe and save lives. For more information, visit ontario.ca/coronavirus, paid for by the Government of Ontario.
When you use a War Amps key tag, you protect your keys. If you lose your keys, the finder can call the War Amps or drop them in any mailbox. And the War Amps will return them to you by courier for free. Order your key tags today at waramps.ca.
Big story at your house, Jordan Heath Rollins. Every day, we're giving you critical information on COVID-19. Listen at thebigstorypodcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts.
From the Cincinnati News Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. Looking at a quiet drive on your major routes this morning. Everything up to speed. A couple spots of construction to look out for. Southbound 404 as you travel past 16th Avenue. Crews there working in the two right lanes. We also got the ramps to the highway from eastbound and westbound 16th Avenue shut down for that road work. On the eastbound 407 Britannia to Dairy Road, two left lanes are gone for road work. Britannia ramps onto the highway, they are closed. That construction is expected to be in effect until Monday afternoon. All your other major routes right now problem-free and up to speed. If you're driving in or out of downtown, no issues on the 404 DVP. QE Gardner looking good as well. Next report is at 2:21. Now let's check your forecast.
Showers on your Sunday, a daytime high of just 9 degrees. The day will begin with cloudy conditions, and then, like I said, rain for much of the day, a low of 2. Monday, still cooler than it should be, a daytime high of just 8, mainly cloudy conditions, and a low of -2. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
Many people have been opening their wallets to contribute to food banks, but is there a better way to ensure people have enough to eat? Martin McMahon is speaking with an expert calling for a universal basic income.
This crisis has put a lot of people out of work, and putting food on the table is harder than ever for many families. Professor Valerie Tarasuk with the University of Toronto is an expert on food insecurity and says a universal income would be more effective.
You know, I can think of the food bank as a kind of like an area in the coal mine. When people end up in those places, it's a signal to us that our system of income support isn't sufficient.
Last month, the federal government announced $100 million to help food banks. I'm Martin McMahon.
This is All News Radio.
The latest traffic and weather is always every 10 minutes on the ones.
This is 680 News.
When the government says you can open for business, how can you be sure your workplace is COVID-free? Call the professionals who can. Canway Cleaning's decontamination services
Everybody's
are
a
to kill all viruses, including COVID-19. 100% coverage, 100% safe. Call Canway, the most effective way to keep your staff, clients, and the public COVID-19 free. Book by May 19th at
Welcome to the COVID Show. Now sit your ass the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Get the gas mask, get the gas mask. Wealthy rappers, where you last at? You were last week, enjoy the past week. Lucky high, you was everlasting.
I beg the mostest, cause I spit it hotter than toasters. Check my name out on all the posters. When I hit the stage, drinks hit the coasters. Women packed all the way to the third row. We ain't in the strip club, we call it Perv Row. I don't know what you heard, ho. I'ma tell you straight, baby. I'm a cert pro, running game like a pimp bitch. Yeah, I'm running game with a limp bitch. The big dog gonna teach you some tricks, bitch. Get out there, catch a date and stack my chips, bitch.
Get the gas mask, get the gas mask. Wealthy rappers, where you last at? You were last week, enjoy the past week. Must be why our music's everlasting.
The future, track bruisers. Caught the beat in the back of the cruiser. Fuck the game up, Karma Sutra. In my Red Rover, I will run right through ya. Growl on the mic like a beast should. Go hard on the beat to Clint Eastwood. Walk on water, everybody knew he would. Written in the scriptures, scholars do we could. On my own, Julius Caesar. Take away my world, I only need her. What you coming? Only wanna be heard. The phoenix shall rise upon my return. Get the gas mask when we spark that.
How much was it?
I think we parked that.
Gas mask when we pass that. What team rappers? Where your ass at? You went last week, enjoy the past week. Must be why our music's everlasting. The gas mask when we pass that. What team rappers? Where your ass at? You went last week, enjoy the past week. Must be why our music's everlasting.
I go Coco,
It's only
so
$10.
loco. Whoop whoop, no Coco. Ya don't know, I'm so pro. Go so slow, in a low low. Twisted like Toto. Oh no, song game like Tony Romo. Even the G's love me, no homo. With the crew, that's a no-no. I'm hydro when I flow. When I flow, it's tidal. Surf the beat, watch my roll. Grab the mic, hit hard like Tybo.
Gas mask when we pass that. One team rappers, where your ass at? You went last week, enjoy the past week. Must be why our music's everlasting. Gas mask when we pass that. One team rappers.
What machine that makes cans? Oh, at least it puts the lids on it.
Enjoy the past week. Must be why our music's everlasting.
I wanted to go to the store and buy like a tin of weed. Or at least make it. I need the machine that makes the tin, let's say.
Got it for the low, got it for the low. What you really do, I got all the snow. Come right off the boat, come right off the boat. Come right off the boat, come right off the boat. This year you already know. I feel like I'm finna go. I know I can hold my own. I know I can hold my own. All I know that crumpet. I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down the highway. All I know that crumpet. Get it money 5 ways. I'm cruising down the highway. I'ma get it one day.
Yeah, they talk it, but they never lived it. I've been gunning for them 7 digits. Came back with a better vision. I ain't never switching. I'ma get this chicken. Crime pays, that's my way. Try to tell them, but they never listen. Fuck the ops, fuck the cops. I'ma make a meal this winter. Merry Christmas. I've been on it since Dipset. Now they wanna get their lips wet. All these bitches used to try to swear me. Now I'm flexing on them with this pimp set.
All I know that crumpet. I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down the highway. All I know that crumpet. Get it money 5 ways. I'm cruising down the highway. I'ma get it one day. All I know that crumpet. I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down the highway. All I know that crumpet. Get it money 5 ways. I'm cruising down the highway. I'ma get it one day. If I die before I wake, pray the Lord my soul to take. If I die before I wake, pray the Lord my soul to take. I can't sleep, these nightmares are real. Gotta keep both hands on the wheel.
here. Give up on the plan, fam. Every year's all year. Top tier toe tagging, coat bagging, boat bagging. Park one of y'all after somersault of Volkswagen. No bragging, I'm the hottest hopper on the table still. Stocks 80 mil, it never drops like a cable bill. Play the feeling gas while I jump a trillion hurdles. So we can't share tracks cause we run in different circles. Journals full of classics, livers full of greatness. Got so many pictures, I might give some to the neighbors. The realest in the business all filled with imitators. Just the rawest fucking cars, bro, you dealing with the brain.
Hey yo, fuck the hook, straight bars and still make it sound tight. Animal, what a real one sound like. Cloud nine rappers hit them with a ground strike. On the one way, we giving them a round flight.
Well, there's a way, but don't get in the way of our will. Cause if you do, that's the day you get killed. I'm a game with your drill. Cause the game is for real. Every bar's like a bullet in your brain will get spilled. And the chamber is filled to make the whack retire. They appetizer, they spit that shit rapid fire. Kiss your life's reminder. If you pass the wire, I'll blow up your flow sucks. You a massive liar. The assassin's tiny. Put it up, they kill it. But wait, they suffer in a cupcake filling. Tie your ass up to the duct tape. Stick it to your face till your fake like some Subway chicken.
Hey yo, fuck a hook, straight bars and still make it sound tight. CRA, what a real one sound like. Cloud nine rappers hit them with a ground strike. On the one way, we giving them a round flight.
Vandal, they cold sweats and jail sandals. Find me leaning on your stupidest rail handle. Got them funny when the whole team show up. Broad doses make a dope fiend grow up. It's on me to grow up, but I gotta reach up with it. Joe King knows when the smoke screen go up. Cold nights, I rock thermals, I'm nocturnal. Parole life, we hot hurdles, the blocks fertile. Hot kernels like SWAT circling crop circles. Shots burrow when the cops knock, hot inferno. Crawl through the depths where they won't protect you. Check you with all due respect. No
Hey yo, fuck a hook, straight bars and still make it sound tight. Ace fuck what a real one sound like. Cloud nine rappers hit them with a ground strike. On the one way, we giving them a round flight.
Bitch of lingerie, cruising on my way to Scotland. James Harden, rocking sock, going in, go try to guard him, beg your pardon. T-Gram, fuck your name, God's finest. Everything you drop, Thomas, get you spot minus. Fiends sniffing, they sniffing without a snot sinus. I play chairs over ends, feeling like rock climbing. Fuck the clock, shit is over when I stop rhyming. All day I'm shutting down these flat top and pumping. It's bumping, just speed up, pots and jumping. Fuck about my trap, pal, if you ain't copping nothing. Half a bird, yeah, probably rocking something. Rockin' stuff, knock it on the phantom of the opera running. The cost of nothing is the most expensive. Close the trench with my co-defendants, hoping that they go to sentence. My whole squad mostly henchmen, like Jimmy Semi clip full of sketches passing through like it's low.
Hey yo, fuck the hook, straight bars and still make it sound tight. T-Grams, what a real one sound like. Cloud nine rappers hit them with a ground strike. On the one way, we giving them a round flight.
Hello, this call is from the Tax Department of Canada Revenue Agency. The reason behind this call is that
cutting heads off. You worried if you cut from the same cloth. You was playing Game Boy, niggas was playing Game God. Niggas Millie Rock on your block with their chain on. Just to get hit up, can't make it. Like Trayvon, just stay calm. Niggas got gay on. The stovetop, metal like Cragons. Turning them heat rays on. They paid on debts and purchase more. Like they only wanted 2 ounces but purchase for. You know we only wanted new houses that's on the shore. But my lawyer gotta study evidence in the court. Two-door sport in the court, playing these greasy loops. After every time I shoot, that ski mask turn to a tool. Still running that nation of domination for Rook. P89 in the barrel slide is too cute. Hit up in the dome when they try ducky. Still better than just standing there and trying nothing. Kill them little pups, I'm a G-dog.
I have him in the streets playing leapfrog. American muscle over a Tesla. Pulling out the bulldog is burnt like a Presla. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. That shot ate your food like a meal. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. That shot ate your food like a meal.
Hold on, let me get some pimpin'. Fuck you think you do it? I pull up in a Buick, blast this music. You know how we do it. Yeah. Like Montel Jordan and these Jordans. All these bitches are swarming. And still I ignore them. Yeah. Cause all these girls boring. Yeah. Anytime I come through, making girls get abortion. It's Charlie, you know me. Rolling in a Harley with shorty. I just hope you got the 40. 20 niggas in dark clothing, that's what we lord. Yeah. You should hear the arrogant names these niggas are called. Yeah. And that bitch was on car. Before Asian or Dream, we had a battery dog. Fuck them all, middle fingers for law. We ain't with the blase blah, hopping out of a car. Always asking them what's up with the top. Passerbys ask police what's up with the chop. Another body, just another day. You acting like you ain't even know the war was underway. That's when we hit you from a blind side. Sitting in the jail and even thinking how the time flies. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. That shot ate your food like a meal. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. That shot ate your food like a meal. I know that they were finished, they came with 3 rounds. Straight up out of G-Town, trains going eastbound. They used to talk about all these niggas, they know it's me now. Package get caught across the border, that's how we rebound. F4TG get brony, AR Paisley, Dre Bars, we the hardest up in these streets now. You best not trespass here, baby, just keep out. We ain't fucking around with the steering if we gon' wheel out. You ain't got the metaphor, nigga, that's when that skill out. Big clock, big shot, knocking all of your teeth out. By now you know they all got heat. They got no parts, but all got beats. Trap music.
Money goes in
¿Sabes que somos los duros?
Oh, actually, I already touched it twice.
¿Sabes que somos los duros?
I got the Frankenstein Apple, Dell, Toshiba, Logitech. It's some company I never heard of before.
Snack motherfucking daddy, nigga. Experience planes going up. Oh, yeah. I just took a black Sabutitano before I wrote this shit so I could better exhibit to niggas with cokies. You niggas is miserable and hopeless. I don't fuck with you jokers. You look in my eyes and you can tell that I'm focused. Staying up late night for the smokers. 7 ounces on the chokers. Hypnosis, jacuzzi water soakers. Beat you like a pinata, my niggas shooters not the type to put the fire to the chop. On the run from La Jara, Lo Mono, La Pole, Lo Puerco, the pig, the po, the minute, the one time trying to lock me for dumb crime. Show up at the bar where I unwind, nickel play that gun reflecting the sunshine. Happy to this life that ain't for the buttercup. Open up a little boutique and they assume it's a cover up. Naturally, half-fashionally, toss a couple drops of water in the work and watch it define gravity. Bougie women call me your majesty. Accurately slash the key and have it, bring the pack with me on the trapper street sauce. When I used to share my juniors, niggas would laugh at me. Now they watching son dancing like Bush Cassidy. I'm on top of the game. Beat a shorty couple dumpers and watch her hop on the plane. Feel the cool breeze that come before the tropical rain. Mixing the sugar, drop it in the flame, and then I chop it for change.
Not now, don't get off yet.
Unexpected, come on. Break your heart.
I can't fuck around
Niggas
at all.
bad, they couldn't make it smart. Couldn't believe a little guppy ate the shark. Unexpected, come on. I'll break your heart. These niggas is mad, they couldn't make it spark. Couldn't believe it, the little guppy ate the shark. I had to laugh at niggas. I hate to use the N-word. Move dope for hope, cause I've been broke. We chopping up the coke. We got the block rocking like the boat. The lock when we chop it like it's soap. fiends be on the float. And if a nigga diss, grab the rope and jump real high. Suicide. The left is how the homies ride. No time for phony lies. Lines be like genocide. A renegade. Lemons to lemonade. Forgive me for my sinning. Drug dealing, fly Lennox, Latin women. Medellin, this is Ochoa's return. Will these fuck boys ever learn? If it ever be my turn. Stack chips, never let it burn. Slicker than your wig on a perm. Make it never see the God. And yeah, I break bread to see the God. The fat see me how I beat the squad.
This don't get close. I tried hard till my ankle is swollen. I got the blink card, whipping up the potion. Magic tricks, watch me turn crack into golden. Make it vanish and bounce back like a rolling. Who they lying to, saying that I fell off? I'm the hardest out, they just mad cause I show up. Call them out, put this whole career into detox. Sawed off 3 shots, jokes like the tip off. Got some young dogs who will slice off your dreadlocks. He chillin' with the Mac on his lap like a laptop. Ladder in the clock, like I'm trying to climb a rooftop. I was on the floor block, you was on the seesaw. Nozzle on the burner, a hole bigger than a meatball. Bullets like craters, you don't wanna hear a lot chop. I'm shooting all neighbors, all the neighborhood dogs. Anything walking on your block is getting hung up. It's wrong dog, I know that you heard of him. So be calm, run up on him with the burner thing. I'm in a bitch and I whip cats and ribbon. You don't want my money strapped up in a turban.
There are still about 200 Canadians at sea on 70 cruise ships.
Why? What the fuck is wrong
While
with
some
you people?
COVID-19 guidelines will be relaxed in BC
It
later
always
this
has
month,
to help
the
to get
feds
back.
say
Why
now
do
is not
you
the time to
stupid?
celebrate. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says we are not in the recovery phase yet.
We are still in
Well,
the
that's up to the
emergency
Premier.
phase where people need to get the support they need so they can continue to socially distance, to stay at home.
He says while some provinces are starting to reopen, the vast majority of Canadians will continue to need support. And the majority of Canada's COVID-19 deaths have been linked to outbreaks in long-term care homes across the country. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Teresa Tam, says the virus disproportionately affects seniors.
Each of us is one too many, but the scale and impact on our seniors as a whole is nothing short of a national tragedy. Prevention and control of COVID-19 in high-risk populations is crucial for controlling this and future waves of COVID-19. These outbreaks drive up the case fatality rate, accelerate spread, and continue to spill over into the community.
Tam says Canada will be living with COVID-19 for some time, and we stand a better chance of maintaining control of the virus if we address the weaknesses in long-term and assisted care homes. Experts say it won't be easy to fix the deadly flaws in Canada's long-term care homes exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but they all agree it starts with improving work conditions for caregivers.
Policymakers and politicians have vowed to fix Canada's neglected long-term care system in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreaks that have led to the deaths of thousands of seniors. The Canadian Labour Congress has released 21 recommendations to improve conditions once the pandemic is over, including hiking wages, providing full-time status to workers, and improving federal oversight. Dr. Samir Sinha with the National Institute on Aging says pandemic data will help inform a review once the crisis is over. Health Minister Patty Hajdu says Canada needs to make changes to ensure seniors are cared for safely and with dignity. Terry Goodwell, the Canadian Press, Ottawa.
It's a small step towards getting back to normal. Some non-essential businesses began opening their doors in Ontario on Saturday. The province is reporting encouraging trends in COVID-19 case numbers, but health officials still have some concerns. Stuart McGinn brings us more.
The newest numbers are the best we've seen in a while. After a record of more than 19,000 tests were completed, 343 new cases were confirmed, the lowest daily tally since April 6th. The numbers also confirmed 59 new deaths and pushed overall recoveries past 72%. But there's still concern about community spread. with more than half of the spike in new cases yesterday linked to it. Data Dr. David Williams called perplexing.
The sooner we stick to the task, the sooner we bring this down.
I want to know if this pandemic plan that they've had for
stage
years.
one.
They
Just
didn't
because
tell us
there's a few sort of like business things that are doing things, the 6-foot distancing is required.
That's the reminder, with more businesses getting the green light to open today, like hardware and other supply stores, while retail stores with a street entrance that can provide curbside pickup will open on Monday. Despite this blip, the province is still seeing this downward trend continue on new cases, which gives us hope for progress in the near future. I'm Stuart McGinn.
Some good news from the Ford government. Provincial parks in Ontario will open back up to the public this Monday. The move allows people a place to enjoy the outdoors, but comes with a restriction. Physical distancing rules will still be in place.
Just in time for the May long weekend, Premier Ford says Ontario will begin opening provincial parks and conservation reserves for day use.
These places will be open.
Don't go to your cottage. Go to the park with 1,000 other fucking people.
Bird watching and biking.
Makes a lot of sense.
But there are limitations. No camping and playgrounds, facilities, and beaches remain closed. Jeff Europe, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, also asks that you stay local.
So if you're planning to visit a provincial park, please only visit the one that is closest to your community.
Yeah, right. They're going to go to the best one.
Wherever they get smashed, and other park startup procedures over the next few weeks, so that more recreational activities and facilities will be available when it's safe. I'm Michelle Mackey.
In Vancouver, a downtown Eastside Park that was home to hundreds of homeless people is now empty. It's part of a provincial order to protect the most vulnerable amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And as Bethlehem Merriam reports, a lot of work still needs to be done.
As of Saturday, there are no more tents pitched at Oppenheimer Park. Hundreds of people have left and moved into hotel rooms. The plan was enacted by the province's emergency program
but I've seen this government say all sorts of
people
things.
in Vancouver and Victoria
I don't
to
trust any
safer
of you.
housing. Shane Simpson, Minister of Social Development, says these sites will be used until there are more permanent solutions for housing.
Whether it's acquisition of accommodation to move people into.
Well, tell us what if anybody's staying in them, so this is like the best way to keep them running too. No.
Might be available.
The eviction order for Victoria's encampments is set for May 20th.
Oh, this is Victoria.
As Oppenheimer Park is emptied of its campers, another tent city is emerging again in Vancouver's downtown east side. As Toby Kerr reports, this one is located in a parking lot near Crab Park.
10 tents and even a sacred fire can now be seen in the parking lot, which is the Jurist Community Action Project, says the new encampment is a call to properly house all of the vulnerable, even people in shelters.
So many people there who are seniors, who are elderly, who've been waiting for years for housing, who've been pushed down the list now because of people who've been offered the hotel room.
She insists the tents are spaced out and the campers have a sense of safety in the parking lot. Some campers had moved into Crab Park itself, but they were quickly kicked out. BPD and the fire department are aware of the situation. I'm Toby Kerr.
As the case numbers rise, what is the city doing about Toronto's homeless population? Pam Seidel spoke to Greg Cook, an outreach worker at Sanctuary Toronto, about what should be done to protect the city's homeless population.
The system is at capacity. There have been outbreaks in some shelters, and in order to meet social distancing rules, the 7,000 shelter beds have been shifted to locations across the city. Tent encampments are also growing in size and in number, which is a safety concern for the city. Advocates are worried they'll be dismantled and say that is not the solution. Advocates say not only do these people have nowhere else to go, but they're safer in these tents, both from catching COVID-19 and spreading it.
We know from the Center for Disease Control that when you clear
when you stir pile of shit, you're gonna get shit all over the
people have
place.
to disperse. They have no option. And so if anybody has COVID, they're forced to go to other locations, forced to interact with people they wouldn't otherwise. It's just not smart.
What ended up happening after the notice was issued Thursday was that the city moved 31 inhabitants into apartments. Leftover belongings and debris were removed and the site cleaned, but the other occupants
I
have
don't
so
believe
far
you. I
been
don't
left
believe
alone
any of
in their
this shit.
tents.
You're taking them somewhere and shooting them. I know you are.
You're listening to All News Radio.
Thanks to your incredible support, Ontario, the Princess Margaret Hole Lottery has sold out early. Despite these uncertain times, cancer research remains crucial. Your support will help fund innovative discoveries and treatments to conquer cancer. Grand prize winners will be announced on May 14th, and the complete list of winners will be available on May 21st at princessmargaretlotto.com. Thank you for your support, and good luck in the draws.
Oh, I think it's some horrible things.
But one big family, especially now. 37 million people united by one cause.
Invest with Scott and earn passive income while you sleep. Yeah, you deserve to be covered in crud, Scott. Invest with Scott and earn passive income while you sleep. I'm thinking horrible things about Scott. I'm thinking that if Scott's hair was on fire, I wouldn't sell him a cup of tap water. I'll give this guy any money whatsoever. Ever. Never. It's not happening. Earn passive income while you sleep. I'm going to give you money and go to sleep. It's right there in the fucking headline.
Driving up to churches, these niggas getting girded. Old lady person. Fuck a comment, I run up in person. Bullets like comets on fire when they burn it. He gon' need an angel, surgeons can't save him. Gripping on their hammer every time I cry type it. I ain't gonna slip again, plus I'm impatient. Remember on the other side, now he's just a patient. When you see the heart, my heart starts to race it. I don't need a kiss up like I don't break statements.
If I die, I'm gonna send my body nothing like shit.
He's Asian and Colombian, a lot of niggas racing. Once I seen the forfeit, forgot about the lucid. I love getting close, I ain't really with the Jason. I ain't going around like Freddy versus Jason. First altercation, I'll shake, then I'll wake up. Birds, no pigeons, watching for the pagans. A lot of niggas, just insane niggas who be reading it. It's wrong, dog, I know that you heard of it. So be calm, run, I run it with the burner thing. I'm in a bitch and a whip that's suburban. You don't want my molly strapped up in a turban. I'm riding up, we already know. They're hiding out till I run up Puerto Rican. Put bodies into hearses, driving up to churches. These niggas getting girded. That old lady person, whip until it's pudding. Shocking with the ice cold, hanging out to dry, knock you out, then you reload. Don't forget the street code, even the police know. Niggas who be snitching and not listening their own home. With their own weapon like they blew away their own dope. I'm hard on the futures, better with the solo. I was on the old coast, I was trapping dolo. Get my boy cold, watch him go loco. See I play like I don't need no muscle. Girl, and I know the one. Hold like a tunnel. Shoot him up, he just him up. Put him in a tunnel. He's throwing up his blood. Lying in a puddle. Blood get it.
He's not on the floor. He's shit everywhere. He's not laying sideways on the floor. He should be laying sideways on the floor. This is what I mean about weird shit happening.
It's wrong, dog. I know that you heard of it. So be calm, run. I want to with the burner thing. I'm in a bitch and a whip that's suburban. You don't want my molly strapped up in a turban. I'm riding up, we riding up. They're hiding up, till I run up with a Lincoln. Put bodies in the hearses, driving up to churches. These niggas getting girded, that old lady person.
If I can make this shit up, I wouldn't be here. I'd be writing books, or movies, or some shit.
I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End.
How many apples and Mexicans gonna pick to make this?
Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the Jane to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hood, cause you know that my niggas be pressed in. Heavy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning no violence. These youngins are wildin', they move kinda reckless. Got the keys, police stay patting niggas, stay cheese. I'm familiar face taxing niggas, safety. Didn't even wanna slap the nigga, he made me. Ain't nobody
nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit something. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the burbs and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza, link to connections, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better house robber. Never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Well, I need my Molly's will rob ya. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shopper. Tell him the truth. Tell him the truth. These rappers, they lie in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's that got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. So we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? Been stripped, jungle to the Rex we deep. I can tell a West End nigga by the way you speak, Birds chirping loud in the hood, always lose they beaks. Know that shotty with bodies got dumped in the creek. Stop, freeze, what I mean looking for me. Her chick, I got that degree, what do you mean? Bitch, you don't know what I seen. Bitch, you ain't been on the scene, record is clean. I'm too wavy, make her get mad wanna date me. I got the sauce, gravy, more than they cannot replace me. Cause I'm from the West End. Bitch, nigga, better watch that top and find out you top to the cops. So when it turn hot on your block, I'm from the West End. So you claim you a bad man, but y'all what a bad girl crew. Let me show you what a bad girl do. But you didn't know that I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying?
Hey. Batman. 20 shirt coming back. Hey. My righteous Batman 2019. I'm weak nigga, fuck that shit, man. You know they come, man. Orlando down. No world. Hey. YG back from the tracks on the crack shit's wrapped on a stack. Niggas don't love you, that's a fact. It's the Mac, no cheese. God bless me, no sneeze. Niggas see me and breeze. Shorty no shit, tease. Got strapped to the slab, ain't moving like a stack. Black just rack, put them in a box, no jack. Roll one deep, never need a pack. Hey. Niggas know me from north to the south. Never need no one, make my own club. Southside, reach apart, nigga, that's my road. Niggas selling drugs, man, I'm in a drought. They all know what I'm about. Stuck red, talk shit, catch lead to the head. Off the shits, no meds, to the fuck on the red. Stay away from the feds, on the streets, no bed. Hey, deep water, I track, I snow, no slip. I swamp me dead, this day I dread. Bitch gave me head, see my strap, they fled. Hey, I know they said I don't be shit when I was in the ditch. No pussy, I'm rich, they low, don't switch, they solid one bitch. See the flick of the wrist, I'm awesome shit, talk shit, get hit, big bump. I keep my stick, I let it flick just like a dick. I'm in this house like old Saint Nick. She want my dick, she know I'm sick. I ain't a crip, that crack I nip. I hit his lip if he talking shit. Fuck his click and fuck his gang. I'll hit the 3 just like I'm dang. She wanna hang that 40 I bang. If he owe my gang, them hollows dang. My shorty's paying. She loves when I sing, she feels the pain. I'm in the rain, hit a stain if it means getting paid. And this might click, you getting laid. I'm in the trap, the cops did a raid. I got that work, you know it's A grade. Righteous Batman, you know it's on the wire and DC. Look, I'm a man, you know you're out. I'm about to go strip lockdown, cuz. Hey. Hit him with a slug, gon' make him move slow. You know me, I'm all about my dough. Gotta make sure my boys gon' glow. They love my beat, they rate my flow. My neck is cold, it's 0 below. Big Riz gon' shoot, you know I drove. I keep my heat, I ain't talking about a stove. I'm in a trap selling food, no fresh code. That nigga wants beef, my strap gon' blow. Every time I drop a chart, my cloak gon' grow. Made sure he told me, don't love a hoe. I should have known that she was right. Because of that, we really tight. I'll bust my strap if she don't fight. Hoodie on, all right at night. I'll show my might, never flight. 40 with the demon, he inciting. I ain't missing, I ain't slipping, never tripping. Coke I'm whipping, check my waist, I'm really dripping. Packs I'm flipping, niggas talking, niggas snitching. Trigger finger, really itch for fit. Niggas that want me dead, 9 on me, a 2 in the head. These niggas run to God like Ned. Check my flag, it's really red. Married to the game, not newlywed. Niggas watch my every move, they just wanna see me lose. These niggas lost like loose. My flow is sick, it's got the flu. Hey, I make red, just call me Dempster's inner mouth, just like a denture. I am icy, looking fresher. Fuck that bitch, I'll never miss her. She respect me, call me mister. Since she left, I have been better. Really wish I never met her. Pays these niggas like a letter.
Exactly what the fuck you doing with this? I don't care. I'm not impressed by it.
Yeah. Times is hard, no doubt, different ways to struggle.
Drop my berry bonds on him. I'm dropping bombs on him.
Schizophrenic, man, I'm panicking to murder kids in your granny. Triggers and you just get your granny.
That murder on my mind state, bitches like you, elevated like a crime rate. Yes, I'm full of hate. If you really think that you better than the devil, then you gotta get a separate fate. Don't rip off my shit. People that just send me get they fall bad. Well, you get fucking punchy and that, and then you get clapped the crack, and then you don't know what the fuck happened. You're just like flat. You don't even see past my identity. Which be the DERE, LICT, MC of the ebony E. Fuck for the beast, they hated on me because I am better, the fucking competitor. I say whatever, you bitches can lay the fuck down. My crew is tough, just like some others from crooks and stuff. What are you saying? You're bluffing your name off in your rounds. Fuck around once more, and you're gonna find that I shit the knife up in your spine. Murderous mind is something to love because it makes me trigger the lust. And when I do murder, you trust me, and it's just because I want you touch.
Schizophrenic, man, I'm panicking to murdering kids in your granny. Triggers and you just get your granny.
R.I.P. Gaza. Huh?
The heart is out and I ain't gonna quit. I'ma kill it and the streets is my accomplice. I'm only being honest. I'm here to make a statement, but fuck making statements. This a fucking promise. Heard niggas want my head. These niggas solid. I'm running and I'm charging all the whips like Black Stallion. I ain't with the wrestling. Fuck a Steve Austin. He can never stone cold stunner this Boston. Black bitches view my shit and start praying. And the niggas hating and they wishing they were on it. Then they start switching and snitching to the sergeant. My niggas got plans in their pants, no wallet. Just like our fans go to George Brown College. And little fans who can barely speak English. 30-year-old OGs and girlies and great hits. Fans with no homes, even the rich kids. Niggas pepperoni and whips, rapping pencils. Listen to a good 16 before they shoot shit. 416, Ronnie's running the district. Homie, you don't want no beef, You got the ruthless, the boys they don't got no aim. The shooter's useless. I'm too sick, barrel long like a full stick. You will need 2 hands just to use it. Put it to his lips and lick. No swooshing, we don't give tips. Hollow tips to the tip. Put it to your kicks, turn your boots with the flip flop. Cut cabbage patch niggas into coleslaw. She don't even want no dick, she wants Ronda. Talk it to me like I'm the rest, and I'm an encore. My goonies, they be pulling up bombs. No swanton, shooting with my left arm. Ain't even my strong arm, still get him done. Way quicker than the backfire. I'm a boss, and I work in Hell's Kitchen. So if you fuck up or move stuck, I start kissing. Team full of boss men, my people are amazing. Fans are the greatest, for them I do the next shit. In the studio, gonna work, no vacation. R.I.P. Tyson, I don't gotta say shit. You pro already know who's riding when they need it. Back to my rap shit, trying to make the Forbes list. Goonies all posted, holding, open. Gotta aqua drive it. Put the red beam on your pitch and start firing. Free flicks, free block, niggas wiring.
4, 5, 6 a.m.
Nearly 2 million jobs were lost last month in the Canadian
Where'd they go?
reported by Stats Canada that many economists said underreported the actual damage to the labor market from the pandemic shutdown. Derek Holt is VP and head of Capital Markets Economics at Scotiabank.
I never thought I'd hear myself saying this in my career, but 2 million jobs lost last month is actually only the tip of the iceberg. And there are another 2 million on top of that who were sitting at home, technically employed, but not getting paid and not going into work. And so that takes the number up to about 4 million. And then there's another roughly 1 3/4 million extra people who applied for Canada Emergency Response Benefit. And on top of that, we're underemployed or working part-time or earning below the minimum pay threshold in order to qualify for jobless benefits. And so overall, millions of workers were displaced in one form or another last month.
Displaced. So I was until they displaced person. Now you're all displaced. I can't be fucked all the way around the street. Don't know someone fucked up. I gotta do it for more. Now you all gotta do it for more. Every time something bad happens to me, you don't want to help me.
Restaurants, construction workers, manufacturing, all very, very sharply down in terms of employment last month.
And while the current month may continue to show elevated unemployment, many are looking forward to the economic restart, which Holt says may take longer than many believe.
When 97% of survey respondents tell Statistics Canada that they think that they haven't really lost their jobs, they're just on temporary layoffs, it remains to be determined exactly how many of those workers are going to come back in subsequent months. And I have a feeling it's not going to be the entire 97%. So I don't know what fraction will come back in staged fashion over months, not immediately. And so I do expect a strong employment snapback, but I don't think we should put aside the fact that there are going to be some people in this picture who are going to be detached from the workforce for a fairly extended period.
It's Derek Holt with the Scotiabank. And at the Business Center, I'm Micah. The following you've heard perhaps hundreds of times, but it's never meant more than it does now. Nobody looks after you like Lexus of Oakville. Nobody looks after you like Lexus of Oakville. Nobody looks after you like Lexus of Oakville. And now, Lexus of Oakville is open with every precaution in place to keep.
Concours ange, il dessiné pour le monde, quoi. C'est conservé, bah, il fait.
When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by, what you going through when them bullets fly by? When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by, what you going through when them bullets fly by? What you going through when them bullets fly by? What you going through when them bullets fly by? What you going through when them bullets fly by? What you going through when them bullets fly by? Pop, pop when you hear the Glock.
Tough down, nigga, cause I'm in the spot. Give it up, nigga, you might get shot. I'm the hot shot, so you gonna get shot. Any nigga out here might feel the pop. My 9mm gonna make you drop. I talk about my 9 cause the shit's so hot. When shit goes down, he's ready to pop. He's stressed out, and I'm trigger happy. I got a taste of life, and it feels so nasty. Believe me, this shit ain't easy. I'm a nigga with attitude, so fuck the pussy. When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by, what you going through when them bullets?
Parks in Ontario are due to reopen come Monday. This as some non-essential businesses in that province open their doors on Saturday.
She's great. She's back on land. A North Vancouver woman recalled what it was like being stuck on a cruise ship from February until now.
He got me on boats.
A tent city in the
Almost
downtown
died.
side is now
And now you always get on boats,
provincial
bro.
order to protect
Don't you
those
hear
who
now?
don't
Stay
know
here,
it's
stupid.
COVID-19.
You got beer.
In sports, the
pizza,
NHL struggles to return
fries,
after COVID-19
cows,
precautions
big-
put hockey
What's wrong
on
with you?
ice back in March. More 15. And coming up in business, we are looking at why the historic April unemployment stats may have underreported the jobs lost in the economy and why many workers are hopeful their jobs will return just as quickly.
Oh, I got SARS. I got Ebola.
From the 680 News Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. New problem on westbound Danforth. As you're heading over the Bloor Viaduct, all lanes there blocked for a collision now. So traffic being diverted at Broadview. Again, this is if you're traveling westbound on Danforth, trying to continue over the bridge onto Bloor Street. It is currently blocked with a collision. Traffic being diverted at Broadview. On your major routes, they're all up to speed. Pretty quiet drive. A little bit of construction on the South 404 as you head past 16th Avenue. 2 right lanes gone. Ramps onto the highway from 16th Avenue. They are closed as well. 401 in great shape in both directions all the way across the city. Next report's on 111. Now let's check your forecast.
A daytime high of 9 on your Sunday. We're in the single digits. Our average high for this time of year is more like 17.
Okay, it was like
and then we're expecting
-2
showers
today,
to
wasn't
begin
it?
in the late morning, early afternoon, lasting for much of the day into the evening, a low of 2. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada will not pay the full price for medical masks that do not live up to medical standards. Federal officials say about 8 million of 11 million and 95 respirators shipped to the government from China have failed to meet specifications. Trudeau says that's not good enough.
We will not be burdened with masks that do not fit our stringent requirements. There are discussions ongoing with them about whether there are alternative uses for these masks, but we will not be paying for masks that do not hit the standards that we expect.
Trudeau says the discovery of the faulty masks speaks to the government's rigorous verification system. The Prime Minister did not name the price the government will pay for the respirators which are used to protect against the COVID-19 virus. This as the PM continues to stress that we are still in the emergency phase of this pandemic.
Our focus right now is on recognizing that we are not in the recovery phase yet. We are not even fully into the restarting phase yet.
While speaking at his daily briefing in Ottawa on Saturday, the Prime Minister says the feds are thinking about the long-term recovery, but it's not the priority. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer says the scale and impact of COVID-19 on the country's seniors is nothing short of a national tragedy. Dr. Theresa Tam says prevention and control of COVID-19 in vulnerable populations is crucial for controlling this and future waves of the virus.
If we are willing to give what it takes to address these weaknesses in long-term care and assisted living homes, and to provide better support to poorly compensated workers in these settings, we stand a better chance of maintaining control of the virus. We will be living with COVID-19 for some time. If we make it a priority to look after the most vulnerable in our society, we can change the outcome of this pandemic and not live in its shadow.
The majority of Canada's COVID-19 deaths have been linked to outbreaks in long-term care homes across the country. Non-essential businesses started to open in Ontario on Saturday, a promising sign towards a return to normal. It comes as that province's case count continues to steady, but signs of community spread are leaving health officials concerned. Stuart McGinn reports.
Today's data shows the smallest number of new cases in more than a month, 346, after a record of more than 19,000 tests were completed, while there were also 59 deaths and 393 new recoveries. It follows a day where numbers spiked and 55% of them were linked to community spread.
It is still perplexing to me that we're not making major headways going down on that. It makes me wonder if people are not being consistent in their physical distancing.
Ontario's top doctor, Dr. David Williams, and his team have maintained that seeing data on community spread go down is what will motivate them to further ease restrictions across the province and take the step into phase 1 of reopening. For now, the small steps continue as Ontario sees this decline in cases. As of today, all hardware and supply stores have reopened their doors. I'm Stuart McGinn.
Just in time for the long weekend, Ontario's provincial parks and conservation areas are reopening. However, this May long weekend will still feel different as physical distancing will be enforced. Michelle Mackey reports.
This Monday, May 11th, will mark the reopening of 520 provincial parks and conservation reserves, with some limitations. Premier Ford says day access only with no camping. Playgrounds, beaches, and facilities remain closed.
Public health measures must be followed at all times, including practicing physical distancing.
Walking, biking, and hiking, however, are a go. Jeff Urick, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, says before visiting a park, visit ontarioparks.ca to find out what's actually available.
We also ask that you stay local. Ontarians should still be reducing the amount of unnecessary travel to other areas of the province.
This month, access to provincial parks and conservation reserves is free for day visitors. I'm Michelle Mackey.
60 days afloat on a big boat, wondering when she was going to be able to come home. Renee Bernard reports a North Vancouver cruise ship employee is finally back in Canada.
I feel so grateful to be back on land, to tell you the truth.
Michelle Jolie is a professional singer and got on the Sky Princess back on February the 20th. Then operations ceased on March the 14th and passengers disembarked. She says the crew spent the next 2 weeks entertaining themselves on board.
We had all sorts of different entertainment. I actually performed for the crew every second day. We had band nights, movie nights, bingo.
But then they were moved onto a different ship and told to self-isolate until the moment they got off the ship in Fort Lauderdale and onto a chartered flight earlier this weekend. Jolie is headed to Northern Alberta, where she will spend the next 14 days in quarantine. 49 Canadians were brought home from the Emerald Princess. I'm Renee Bernard.
2 more British Columbians have died from COVID-19. BC's top doctor, Bonnie Henry, also announced 15 new positive cases of the virus in that province during her regular update on Saturday. She also talked about Mother's Day.
Let's show how much we care for them by ensuring we are doing all we can do to keep them safe. Safe physical distance remains an important part of what we need to do right now in British Columbia.
Are you telling me to stay 6 feet away from my mom and tell me to hug her at the same time?
The recovery rate from COVID-19 in BC is now 71%, the highest since the pandemic. And in Vancouver, a downtown east side park that was home to hundreds of homeless people is now empty. It's part of a provincial order to protect the most vulnerable amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. As Bethlehem Mary reports, a lot of work still needs to be done.
As of Saturday, there are no more tents pitched at Oppenheimer Park. Hundreds of people have left and moved into hotel rooms. The plan was enacted by the province's Emergency Program Act to move homeless people in Vancouver and Victoria to safer housing. Shane Simpson, Minister of Social Development, says these sites will be used until there are more permanent solutions for housing.
Whether it's acquisition of accommodation to move people into permanently, whether it's modular housing, whether it's other options that might be available.
The eviction order for Victoria's encampments is set for May 20th. I'm Bethlehem Merriam.
And though efforts were made to clean up Oppenheimer Park, it seems those who have left found a new home. A new tent city has popped up on Vancouver's waterfront. As Toby Kerr reports, about 10 tents have been erected on a parking lot outside of Crab Park. Fiona York is with the Carnegie Community Action Project and explains why the tents are there.
So this parking lot is actually federal. It's reserved for private use, but it's a federally owned parking lot. And we basically are calling on the charter, which says that people have a right to shelter, especially during a pandemic.
She says they're hoping the arrival of another tent city will get the province's attention to house more than just those who live at Oppenheimer. She says people with the Port Authority and fire departments have made visits. Another sacred fire has been lit, but York believes they were able to secure a permit for it. I'm Toby Kerr. Canada's Indigenous Services Minister says outbreaks of COVID-19 in First Nations communities may have been delayed because of their remoteness. Mark Miller pointed to an outbreak in the northern Saskatchewan community of La Loche that has left more than 100 sickened as an example.
First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities have done an incredible job in responding and preventing outbreaks. Their collective work in this is critical, and our commitment to support them and making sure they have what they need and are able to continue to protect their community members remains steadfast.
Miller said there's a need for better data collection to help protect the communities and understand the spread of the virus among Indigenous people, and called on provincial governments to help in that area. You're listening to All News Radio.
Find a car today, a much better way. Visit Ontario.
Want to study a virus is not religious.
Here, I know you're an expert on buying a car and all, and I appreciate that, I really do. But don't you suppose that maybe, just maybe, everybody could use a little help, like Jerry here?
Well, she told me it was easy. I went to OntarioCars.ca, and don't you know, I fell in love with a beauty.
See, look up OntarioCars.ca to find sellers you can trust. Don't worry, you'll do just fine.
At Sleep Country, we know the importance of sleep, especially at times like these. That's why our sleep experts are now available online at sleepcountry.ca to chat with you about your changing sleeping needs. From making the most of small spaces to creating a more comfortable sleeping environment, our sleep experts are here to help you 7 days a week, and deliveries are free on any online purchase. Sleep well and stay well. Sleep Country.
Big Story. I'm your host, Jordan Heath Rawlings. We'll take you through this crisis one day and one story at a time. Listen to BigStoryPodcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts. From the 680 Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. Westbound Danforth, it is currently blocked at Cambridge Avenue, which is just west of Broadview. This is because of a collision that happened heading over the Bloor Viaduct. Again, all westbound lanes at Danforth blocked off there. If you're coming eastbound over the viaduct, lanes remain open. It's only if you're going from Danforth to Bloor Street where you will be diverted. Looking at the major routes there, no delays anywhere. A little bit of construction along the way, southbound 404 and 16th Avenue. Two right lanes are gone. Ramps onto the highway from eastbound and westbound 16th Avenue, they are closed as well. And then some construction on the East 407 Britannia ramps to the highway are closed. Next report's at 121. Now let's check your forecast.
Showers on your Sunday, a daytime high of just 9 degrees. The day will begin with cloudy conditions, and then, like I said, rain for much of the day, a low of 2. Monday, still cooler than it should be, a daytime high of just 8, mainly cloudy conditions, and a low of -2. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
Many people have been opening their wallets to contribute to food banks, but is there a better way to ensure people have enough to eat? Martin McMahon is speaking with an expert calling for a universal basic income.
This crisis has put a lot of people out of work, and putting food on the table is harder than ever for many families. Professor Valerie Tarasak with the University of Toronto is an expert on food insecurity and says a universal income would be more effective.
Stop looking at my food.
As a kind of a canary in the coal mine, that when people end up in those places, it's a signal to us that our system of income support isn't sufficient.
Last month, the federal government announced $100 million to help food banks. I'm Martin McMahon.
But then you threw out 30,000 liters of milk.
News
is always
What's that cost?
now more than ever.
Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day.
This is 680 News.
Ask to play us on your smart speaker.
At Intact Insurance, we're committed to helping people when they need us the most. And today's no different. That's why we're providing payment flexibility and auto insurance premium adjustments in response to this current crisis. So far, these efforts have helped over 350,000 Canadians and businesses. If you're experiencing financial hardship, or if your driving habits have changed, we can help. To learn more about our ongoing relief measures, visit intact.ca or contact your broker.
I'm David St. Jacques. As an astronaut, I know what it's like to be isolated, away from friends and family. It's hard, but it's what we all need to do for each other. Even if you're not feeling sick, you can still be infected with COVID-19 and pass it to others. Your actions can protect your loved ones. Stay home. Save lives. Visit canada.ca/coronavirus regularly for the latest instructions on how you can help stop this pandemic.
A message from the Government of Canada.
This is All News Radio.
I'm Josh Ritchie. Here are the top stories right now.
We are not in the recovery phase yet. We are not even fully into the restarting phase yet.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasizing that while some provinces are looking at how to reopen their economies, now is not the time to celebrate. This comes as the PM says Canada will not pay the full price for medical masks that do not live up to medical standards. Federal officials saying about 8 million of 11 million N95 respirators shipped to the government from China have failed to meet specifications. And Canada's chief public health officer says the scale and impact of COVID-19 on the country's seniors is nothing short of a national tragedy. Dr. Theresa Tam says prevention and control of COVID-19 in vulnerable populations is crucial for controlling future waves of the virus. This as deaths in long-term care facilities now account for more than 80% of the roughly 4,500 deaths from COVID-19 in Canada.
Oh, they're going to put board school kids to work. Handwriting.
Sportsnet on a conference call yesterday, Flames GM Brad Treliving used the word momentum when discussing the possibility of getting back on the ice. But he also said to be cautious about how and when that will be happening. There has been an endless speculation about what post-pandemic lockdown hockey will look like. Treliving says nothing is certain.
What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? What you gonna do when the bullets fly by? Dark like a goose or snitch to the cops. Me, I cock back, let it go for the power. Bullets fly by like a breeze in the summer. Cold dog set MTLCTE, RIP, and KSP, HOTSHOTIGSME. Yeah, it's me. I let my bullets fly high. Shooting at your niggas like kites in the sky.
You can set the white balance.
I'm killing this rap shit. So what you gonna do when my bullets fly by? When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by?
You don't like it when I say things like
Everyday niggas talking shit. Like they tough in this motherfucking street. But they not, nigga. When the bullets fly by, them niggas tough like bitches. It's your boy, you know, HOTSHOT. Cold Dog, Revolution in Process Records, KSP the Zone Records. Fuck you niggas. When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? When bullets fly by, when bullets fly by. What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by? What you gonna do when them bullets fly by?
Overdose. You already know what it is. Overdose. Cody King and Overdose. Overdose. That's us. Raise a shot to another fucking year. Light that blunt if you highlight air. Start that line if you don't fucking care. I do drugs.
I do everything I want. I do everything I want. I can do anything I want. I can do anything I want.
I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, I'm gonna eat you up. I'm in the club, I'm gonna have a party, I'm gonna live it up. Take another pill or another shot. Here's another depth, I can never get enough. Need enough so we can last. Yeah, I'm a dirty ass, grimy line starter. That's how I keep my motivation. I'll do fine with this chord. That way can be on top of my zone. I don't need to scatter my thoughts when I'm reciting lyrical miracles. Everything else to me don't matter. Watch your back. I'm a vicious ass rapper. True, fuck the jelly before the peanut butter. Put it back in the cracker, Ritz slapper. I'm a drug blaster, always doing what I want. Try and stop me, motherfucker. Raise a shot to another fucking year. Like that blunt if you highlight air. Snort that line if you don't fucking care. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs.
I do everything I want, I do everything I want. I can do anything I want, I can do anything I want.
I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs.
I'ma fire it up like it's a fresh doobie. No, you silly flamers, not the cheerleading movie. My mind is kinda screwy from these drugs I'm doing, but I don't think that I'm really losing. All of the boozing and shooting has got my mind oozing. These lyrics for you floozies. Don't say you know me, I lost all my homies. They all overdose shit. You ain't in my old beef.
Where they at?
Just ate a gummy, now everything is floating. Snort a couple addies, I must keep going. Gotta keep flowing, these drugs take funding. Always steady stunting, yeah, we fucking running.
Raise a shot to another fucking year. Like that blunt if you highlight air. Snort that line if you don't fucking care. I don't. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs.
I do everything I want, I do everything I want.
I can do anything I want, we can do anything we want. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs. Yeah, we do. I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs.
Cody King and overdose, ain't no little pump, bitch. Did a fat ringer while Cody's doing bumps. Hey. All day, hit the ground running. Couple beats and beers, you know we steady buzzing.
Yeah, I can do anything I want. 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 I do drugs, I do drugs, I do drugs.
Entertaining y'all while I'm hanging with convicts. North and Toronto. Yo. Yo. Saskatoon, yeah, Saskatoon, Saskatoon, yeah, Saskatoon, Saskatoon, yeah, Saskatoon, girl. Thinking about taking you home, me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing, you hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing, so let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Riding down 8th Street, suckers wanna hate me. Probably cause they see me sitting shoddy with they ladies. I'm fly, should've known better. Everybody know that I'm a real go-getter. Go get your girl, go get your chick. See you do your thing, baby girl, with them hips. You an angel in disguise, you a devil in disguise. I'm a devil in disguise, we can get it on, girl. Come to my world, we can get this thing poppin'. I'll show you things you never seen, girl, and I ain't stopping. We roll through the hood, everybody know me. Only 21 and I'm a real OG, yeah. Let me do my thing, I wanna hear you sing my song when I rap to it, yeah. Took a break from the game, when it's saying now I'm back to it, back. Thinking about taking you home, me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing, you hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing, so let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. I wanna do my thing, she wanna do a thing. Up in the studio, bet I can make it sing. 306 represent a Saskatoon soldier, reppin' my city, man, but I thought I told ya. I'm fly, she fly too, and when it's time to ride, I know she gon' ride too. Why hide you? You a good girl, roll with me, you be living in a good world. Thinking about taking you home, like the way you do that, baby girl, let's get it on. Girl, I put it on for my city, man, and I'm a bad boy, like Diddy, man. Girl, come get your game check. Swear with a moment, baby, I ain't giving rain checks. And I'm all about my game, man. Get famous, that's the one and only game plan. Thinking about taking you home. Me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing. You hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Girl, you turn me up. Girl, you turn me on. Girl, you turn me up. Girl, you turn me on. Ain't nobody really do it like this. Ain't nobody really do it like this. Girl, you turn me up. Girl, you turn me on. Girl, you turn me up. Girl, you turn me on. Ain't nobody really do it like this. Ain't nobody really do it like this. Baby, let's get it. We already got it. Triple R reppin'. Swear I can't stop it. Rapping ain't a hobby. Rapping my life. You do this once a month. I do this every day and every night. Girls take flight. Fly like a G6. Go hit the club till I'm bucked and I see six. Go meet some different women. Go sip Patron. Go pot till I feel like taking someone home. Thinking about taking you home. Me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing. You hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing.
With your food and your drink. Podplay. Listen and subscribe for free with your podcast player and at frequencypodcastnetwork.com. Find your frequency.
The big story.
I'm your host, Jordan Heath Rollins. We're at home, so are you, but we've got the stories to get you through this. Listen at thebigstorypodcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Mike Uppage. Nearly 2 million jobs were lost last month in the Canadian economy. A number reported by Stats Canada that many economists said underreported the actual damage to the labor market from the pandemic shutdown. Eric Holt is a VP and head of capital markets economics at Scotiabank.
Yeah, I never thought I'd hear myself saying this in my career, but 2 million jobs lost last month is actually only the tip of the iceberg. There were another 2 million on top of that who were sitting at home, technically employed, but not getting paid and not going into work. And so that takes the number up to about 4 million. And then there's another roughly 1.75 million extra people who applied for Canada Emergency Response Benefit that on top of that were underemployed or working part-time or earning below the minimum pay threshold in order to qualify for jobless benefits. And so overall, millions of workers were displaced in one form or another last month.
And after the first wave of job cuts in the travel and tourism industries, the job losses hit every sector in the April data.
There were a lot of sectors in services like retail and wholesale trade, hotel and restaurants, construction workers, manufacturing, all very sharply down in terms of employment last month.
And while the current month may continue to show elevated unemployment, many are looking forward to the economic restart, which Holt says may take longer than many believe.
When 97% of survey respondents tell Statistics Canada that they think that they haven't really lost their jobs, they're just on temporary layoffs, it remains to be determined exactly how many of those workers are going to come back in subsequent months. And I have a feeling it's not going to be the entire 97%. So I don't know what fraction will come back in staged fashion over months, not immediately. And so I do expect a strong employment snapback, but I don't think we should lose sight of the fact that there are going to be some people in this picture who are going to be detached from the workforce for a fairly extended period.
It's Derek Holt with the Scotiabank. And at the Business Center, I'm Micah.
Together, we are making a difference to stop the spread of COVID-19. As businesses and workplaces begin to reopen, we all have to continue doing our part to keep everyone safe. Remember to practice physical distancing or wear a face covering if physical distancing is a challenge. And wash your hands thoroughly and often. Whether inside or out, stay safe and save lives. For more information, visit ontario.ca/coronavirus, paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Now's your chance to preview FX for free. With 17 Golden Globes and a whopping 75 Emmys, FX is home to the most innovative must-see programs. And this spring is better than ever. With a new sci-fi drama, Devs, a thrilling series from Alex Garland, creator of Ex Machina. Watch Devs and other new series like Mrs. America and Dave today. Only in FX. Available on Rogers, Bell 5, Cogeco, and Videotron.
This is All News Radio.
On 680 News.
Now we'll look at the national forecast. Sunday in Calgary, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 7 degrees. In Edmonton, some sun and cloud, and 10. In Vancouver, mainly sunny, a high of 23. Out east Toronto, a chance of rain showers, possible flurries, and 10. And in Ottawa, mainly cloudy and a high of 11.
This is All News Radio.
I'm Josh Ritchie. Here's what's making news right now. Dozens of Canadians that were stuck on a cruise ship in the Caribbean because of COVID-19 have returned home. We talked with a woman from Vancouver about her experience. As provinces across Canada look at reopening, Prime Minister Trudeau says now is no time to celebrate, as Canada is not in the recovery phase yet. And Canada's top doctor, Dr. Theresa Tam, says we stand a better chance against COVID-19 if we address issues in long-term care homes. This comes as deaths in these facilities now account for more than 80% of the roughly 4,500 deaths from COVID-19 in Canada. And in Vancouver,
hundreds of homeless people have vacated a tent city in the downtown east side and moved into hotels following a provincial order.
In sports, bad news for the UFC as a fighter tests positive for the COVID-19 virus. 4:45. And coming up in business, we are looking at why the historic April unemployment stats may have underreported the jobs lost in the economy and why many workers are hopeful their jobs will return just as quickly.
From the 680 News Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. Out on your major routes, quiet drive, a little bit of construction in a couple of spots. Southbound 404 at 16th Avenue, 2 right lanes are gone. Eastbound, westbound 16th Avenue ramps to the south 404, they remain blocked. And then if you're traveling eastbound on the 407 from Britannia to Derry Road, crews working in the 2 left lanes. Eastbound and westbound Britannia ramps to the east 407, they remain blocked as well. All your other major routes problem-free and up to speed. Westbound Danforth heading over the Bloor Viaduct, right lane is blocked. This is for a collision. The whole road was blocked earlier, but they've reopened the left lane, so you can get by now. Your next report is at 1:41. I'll check your forecast.
A daytime high of 9 on your Sunday. We're in the single digits. Our average high for this time of year is more like 17. A cloudy start, and we're expecting showers to begin in the late morning, early afternoon, lasting for much of the day into the evening, a low of 2. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
49 Canadians are back on home soil after months of being cooped up on cruise ships in the Caribbean. As Rennie Bernard reports, the cruise ship employees didn't have clearance to leave until Saturday morning.
I feel awesome.
That's North Vancouver's Michelle Jolie, who is an entertainer. Her journey on a ship began February 20th. In mid-March, cruise ships were told to stop operations. Employees were not allowed to leave the ships, and the vessels themselves had no place to dock.
We've been anchored outside of the Bahamas since about March 15th, 16th, and then we would sail around a little bit and then go to Fort Lauderdale to get supplies, and then we would go back and we'd anchor.
There are still about 200 Canadians at sea on 70 cruise ships. Rennie Bernard.
While some COVID-19 guidelines will be relaxed in BC later this month, the feds say now's not the time to celebrate. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says we are not in the recovery phase yet.
We are still in the emergency phase where people need to get the support they need so they can continue to socially distance, to stay at home.
He
Bring
says
back the
while some
$1,000
provinces are
bills.
starting to reopen, the vast majority of Canadians will continue to need support. The majority of Canada's COVID-19 deaths have been linked to outbreaks in long-term care homes across the country.
Right?
Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, says the virus disproportionately affects seniors.
Each loss is one too many,
But
but
I
the
went to
scale
Justin
and
Trudeau's
impact
school at
on
the
our
same time.
seniors as a
I
whole
probably
is
would have
nothing
picked
short
up
of a
and
national
stuff.
tragedy. Prevention and control of COVID-19 in high-risk populations is crucial for controlling this and future waves of COVID-19. These outbreaks drive up the case fatality rate, accelerate spread, and continue to spill over into the community.
Tam says Canada will be living with COVID-19 for some time, and we stand a better chance of maintaining control of the virus if we address the weaknesses in long-term and assisted care homes. Experts say it won't be easy to fix the deadly flaws in Canada's long-term care homes, but they all agree that it starts with improving work conditions for caregivers.
Policymakers and politicians have vowed to fix Canada's neglected long-term care system in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreaks that have led to the deaths of thousands of seniors. The Canadian Labour Congress has released 21 recommendations to improve conditions once the pandemic is over, including hiking wages, providing full-time status to workers, and improving federal oversight. Dr. Samir Sinha with the National Institute on Aging says pandemic data will help inform a review once the crisis is over. Health Minister Patty Hajdu says Canada needs to make changes to ensure seniors are cared for safely and with dignity. Terry Pedro, the Canadian Press, Ottawa.
It's a small step towards getting back to normal. Some non-essential businesses began opening their doors in Ontario on Saturday. The province is reporting encouraging trends in COVID-19 case numbers, but health officials still have some concerns. Stuart McGinn has more.
The newest numbers are the best we've seen in a while. After a record of more than 19,000 tests were completed, 343 new cases were confirmed, the lowest daily tally since April 6th. The numbers also confirmed 59 new deaths and pushed overall recoveries past 72%. But there's still concern about community spread, with more than half of the spike in new cases yesterday linked to it. Data Dr. David Williams called perplexing.
The sooner we stick to the task, the sooner we bring this down, the sooner we can look at moving into the stage one. Just because there's a few sort of like business things that are doing things, the 6-foot distancing is required.
That's the reminder, with more businesses getting the green light to open today, like hardware and other supply stores, while retail stores with a street entrance that can provide curbside pickup will open on Monday. Despite this blip, the province is still seeing this downward trend continue on new cases, which gives us hope for progress in the near future. I'm Stuart McGinn.
Some good news from the Ford government. Provincial parks in Ontario will open back up to the public this Monday. The move allows people a place to enjoy the outdoors, but comes with a restriction. Physical distancing rules will still be in place.
Just in time for the May long weekend, Premier Ford says Ontario will begin opening provincial parks and conservation reserves for day use.
These places will be open for walking, hiking, bird watching, and biking.
Same thing, buddy.
But there are limitations. No camping, and playgrounds, facilities, and beaches remain closed. Jeff Urich, Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, also asks that you stay local.
So if you're planning to visit a provincial park, please only visit the one that is closest to your community.
According to the province, Ontario Park staff will be conducting maintenance and other park startup procedures over the next few weeks so that more recreational activities and facilities will be available when it's safe. I'm Michelle Mackey.
When's it going to be safe?
In Vancouver, a downtown Eastside park that was home to hundreds of homeless people is now empty. It's part of a provincial order to protect the most vulnerable amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. As Bethlehem Marion reports, a lot of work still needs to be done.
As of Saturday, there are no more tents pitched at Oppenheimer Park. Hundreds of people have left and moved into hotel rooms. The plan was enacted by the province's Emergency Program Act to move homeless people in Vancouver and Victoria to safer housing. Shane Simpson, Minister of Social Development, says these sites will be used until there are more permanent solutions for housing.
Whether it's acquisition of accommodation to move people into permanently, whether it's modular housing, whether it's other options that might be available.
The eviction order for Victoria's encampments is set for May 20th. I'm Bethlehem Mariam.
As Oppenheimer Park was emptied of its campers, another tent city is emerging again in Vancouver's downtown east side. As Topi Kerr reports, this one is located in a parking lot near Crab Park. 10 tents and even a sacred fire can now be seen in the parking lot, which is the jurisdiction of the Federal Port Authority. Theo New York with the Carnegie Community Action Project says the new encampment is a call to properly house all of the vulnerable, even people in shelters.
So many people there who are seniors, who are elderly, who've been waiting for years for housing, who've been pushed down the list now because of people who've been offered the hotel room.
She insists the tents are spaced out and the campers have a sense of safety in the parking lot. Some campers had moved into Crown Park itself, but they were quickly kicked out. BPD and the fire department are aware of the situation. I'm Toby Kerr. As the case numbers rise, what is Toronto doing about the homeless population in that city? Absino spoke to Greg Cook, an outreach worker at Sanctuary Toronto, about what should be done to protect the city's homeless population.
The system is at capacity. There have been outbreaks in some shelters, and in order to meet social distancing rules, the 7,000 shelter beds have been shifted to locations across the city. Tent encampments are also growing in size and in number, which is a safety concern for the city. Advocates are worried they'll be dismantled and say that is not the solution. Advocates say not only do these people have nowhere else to go, but they're safer in these tents, both from catching COVID-19 and spreading it.
We know from the Center for Disease Control that when you clear an encampment, right, it's more likely actually the virus will spread because people have to disperse. They have no option. And so if anybody has COVID, they're forced to go to other locations, forced to interact with people they wouldn't otherwise. It's just not smart.
What ended up happening after the notice was issued Thursday was that the city moved 31 inhabitants into apartments. Leftover belongings and debris were removed and the site cleaned, but the other occupants have so far been left alone in their tents. I'm Pam Siegel, City News.
You're listening to All News Radio.
Local businesses make our city great.
That's why 680 News has partnered with Scotiabank in Operation Support Local. Hi, it's Steve Roberts. By supporting local, you can help keep the places you love open. From shopping online to signing up for online classes or even ordering takeout, it all starts with you. To submit or find a local business to support, visit 680news.com/support local. Operation Support Local.
In partnership with our friends, Scotiabank, we're in this together.
At Tim Hortons, we're proud to serve all of our communities across Canada. And we're thinking about you. That's why we've made some changes recently. So we're offering you delivery from Uber Eats and Skip the Dishes. Tim Hortons, proudly serving our communities.
When you use a War Ants key tag, you protect your keys. If you lose your keys, the finder can call the War Ants or drop them in any mailbox. And War Ants will return them to you by courier for free. Order your key tags today at warants.ca. What you need to know.
The latest breaking news, traffic, and weather.
Turn to 680 News.
Toronto.
From the 680 News Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. Looking at a quiet drive out on the major routes this morning. 401, no problems at all, eastbound or westbound all the way across the city. Highway 400, same story there, everything looking good. 404 DVP, it's all up to speed. A little bit of construction on the 404 southbound as you head past 16th Avenue. 2 right lanes gone for road work. 16th Avenue ramps to the south 404 are also blocked. Kiwi Gardner, no problems eastbound or westbound. 403, 410, everything up to speed there. Highway 427, same story, northbound and southbound. It's looking good. Eastbound 407, you will find some road work there from Britannia to Derry Road in the 2 left lanes. Britannia ramps onto the highway also shut down. Next report at 151. Now let's check your forecast.
Showers on your Sunday, a daytime high of just 9 degrees. The day will begin with cloudy conditions, and then, like I said, rain for much of the day, a low of 2. Monday, still cooler than it should be, a daytime high of just 8, mainly cloudy conditions, and a low of -2. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
So you don't have anything for Mother's Day. Don't worry, Tim Chapman is here to help.
Okay, sure, you're running out of time, but that doesn't mean you're out of luck. There's lots of ways you can show your mom that you care. Give mom a break, have breakfast delivered. Besides, you don't need to be Gordon Ramsay to make eggs and toast.
Come on,
man.
All right, Gordon, well, if you don't have lamb sauce, go sentimental with a framed photo of a special moment, or even take it one step further, make a photo album. Maybe you're not too crafty, no worries. Go with Old Faithful, make some flowers, and a handwritten card. If nothing else, give mom a little virtual FaceTime, and that's a surefire way to give her a smile on her special day. I'm Tim Chapman.
This is All News Radio.
The big story.
I'm your host, Jordan Heath Rawlings. Every day, we're giving you critical information on COVID-19. Listen at thebigstorypodcast.ca or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everybody, Dina Felietta here with an exciting announcement. Breakfast Television is teaming up with America's Got Talent to bring you the Canadian Families Got Talent contest. We're looking for Canadians to show us their amazing talents. Your video could be judged by Simon Cowell. Have fun, be creative. Upload your videos to breakfasttelevision.ca. Enter Canadian Families Got Talent presented by Canadian Tire. Watch Breakfast Television for more details. Contest closes May 14th.
Thanks to your incredible support, Ontario, the Princess Margaret Hole Lottery has sold out early. Despite these uncertain times, cancer research remains crucial. Your support will help fund innovative discoveries and treatments that conquer cancer. Grand prize winners will be announced on May 14th, and a complete list of winners will be available on May 21st at princessmargaretlotto.com. Thank you for your support, and good luck in the draws.
This is All News Radio.
I'm Josh Ritchie. Here are the top stories right now.
We are not in the recovery phase yet. We are not even fully into the restarting phase yet.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasizing that while some provinces are looking at how to reopen their economies, now is not the time to celebrate. This comes as the PM says Canada will not pay the full price for medical masks that do not live up to medical standards. Federal officials say about 8 million of 11 million N95 respirators shipped to the government from China have failed to meet specifications. And Canada's chief public health officer says the scale and impact of COVID-19 on the country's seniors is nothing short of a national tragedy. Dr. Theresa Tam says prevention and control of COVID-19 in vulnerable populations is crucial for controlling future waves of the virus. This as deaths in long-term care facilities now account for more than 80% of the roughly 4,500 deaths from COVID-19 in Canada.
I'm Sam Hike with Sportsnet. On a conference call yesterday, Flames GM Brad Treliving used the word momentum when discussing the possibility of getting back on the ice. But he also said to be cautious about how and when that will be happening. There has been an endless speculation about what post-pandemic lockdown hockey will look like. And Treliving says nothing is certain at this point.
You know, when you look at the completion of the season, regular games being played, you know, you hear one day they are, some days they're not. Are we going right into playoffs? What does a playoff look like? How many teams? When do we go into phase 2 and the draft? Those are all sort of the topical discussions, but it's important to note that nothing, and I underline that and highlight it, nothing is firm.
Phase 2 is getting into facilities for training. Treliving says some places are getting to phase 2 and added the league is looking for a consistent opening in all places to get back on the ice. Yesterday, the NHL announced all international play in the NHL schedule for this year has been postponed because of the pandemic. Boston and Nashville were to play in the Czech Republic, Colorado and Columbus over in Finland. The NHL says they'll look forward to getting across the pond next year. And a UFC fighter has tested positive for COVID-19.
When he arrived in Jacksonville Friday, Ronaldo Jacare Souza informed UFC officials that a family member might have been infected with the coronavirus. Souza was tested along with his 2 cornermen. When all 3 tested positive, the UFC immediately pulled him from the event and they were sent home. ESPN MMA insider Ariel Helwani.
Fighters and managers said they went right up to their room. They wanted to stay away from everyone, but there's definitely a sense of concern and, a little bit of shock that this happened.
All of the other 23 athletes scheduled to compete at UFC 249 tested negative, and the event is on a schedule. Todd Ant, ABC News.
Sports on the 15s and the 45s or anytime at sportsnet.ca.
It's been a staple of BC business for more than a century, but on Saturday we learned that the discount department store Army and Navy is closing permanently as a result of COVID-19. As Spring Gooder reports, the store began business in BC back in 1919.
Owner Jackie Cohen confirmed the news in a statement, writing, "It's difficult to comprehend. This time last year, we were celebrating the centenary of Army and Navy, and we were looking forward to the years ahead. Now, we are closing." Ryan Bruce speaks for the union that represents about 83 people that were working at the stores in New Westminster and Vancouver.
I mean, we had just ratified an agreement, and, things were looking good. There was kind of this feeling that the company was in a good place. They're renovating some of their stores. There was, to go from that to this in a year is really shocking.
He says the union is working on making sure those losing their jobs are getting a fair severance package, and he notes the company has been proactive in those discussions. I'm Kareem Gouda.
In Ontario, Premier Doug Ford is assuring families his government will work towards fixing a long-term care system that he described as absolutely broken.
But we're going to do a complete review, top to bottom, and make sure this doesn't happen again. But it's happening again. It's happening all around the world. It just gets into these long-term care homes, and it goes through there like an Australian bushfire. It's terrible. And we're doing everything we can to protect the people there.
Ford did not say if he was prepared to end private ownership of long-term care homes. This also comes as the Premier says that he wants to grant long-term care homes access to N95 masks, adding that it's one of the government's focuses moving forward.
They're going to bring over equipment for surgical masks, but again, it's constant. I'm on this every single day. I'm hunting for more PPE.
More than 1,700 workers in the province's long-term care homes have tested positive for COVID-19, and at least 4 have died from the illness, according to provincial data. Deaths in these care facilities now account for more than 80% of the roughly 4,500 deaths from COVID-19 in Canada. Are food banks the most efficient way to provide support for those who need it? Martin McMahon is talking with an expert who argues a universal basic income would be more efficient.
In the view of Professor Valerie Tarasuk with the University of Toronto, an expert on food insecurity, food banks are a last resort for Canadians. She feels a universal basic income would help people avoid having to turn to food banks in the first place.
You know, by the time somebody shows up at the door of a food bank, that's somebody who's fallen through the cracks of our safety net, right?
People are increasingly turning to food banks with more than 3 million people out of work since the pandemic began. I'm Martin McMahon.
You're listening to All News Radio.
Live, local, and always breaking.
This is 680 News. Want to discover this year's most innovative new products? Visit productoftheyear.ca. From the buzziest beauty products and luxe culinary finds to cutting-edge appliances and oh-so-good sweets, thousands of Canadians have voted for the most innovative new products for 2020. The world's largest consumer-voted award for product innovation that recognizes product design, functionality, and packaging. And the products that impressed are yours to behold at productoftheyear.ca. Dixie X-Ray Associates points out that with COVID-19, healthcare workers, hospitals, and clinic employees are working harder than ever for our safety and recovery. Let's do our part to help out, prevent the spread through physical distancing, and staying home whenever possible. With clean hands, clear heads, and open hearts, we'll get through this together. A special message from Dixie X-Ray Associates, open to a limited number of patients at a time, plus other added safety measures to their already sterile environment. Visit DixieXray.com.
We're already sterile, but we'll be more sterile.
From the 680 News Traffic Center, I'm Michael Ranger. Major routes looking good across the GTA this morning. Everything is up to speed, not seeing any delays. A little bit of construction on the southbound 404 as you head past 16th Avenue. 2 right lanes are gone. Eastbound, westbound 16th Avenue ramps to the south 404. They are also blocked off as part of this road work. Again, all other major routes looking good. 401, no problems in either direction all the way across the city. Driving in around to downtown on the QE Gardner, everything up to speed there. Westbound Danforth heading over the Bloor Viaduct. Right lane is blocked for a previous collision. You will see the flashing lights going by this. Your next report is at 2:01. Now let's check your forecast.
Showers on your Mother's Day Sunday, a daytime high of 9, cooler than our seasonal average high of 17, a low of 2. Monday, cool conditions continue, a daytime high of 8, mainly cloudy skies with a low of -2. Tuesday, 8 again as your daytime high, partly cloudy skies and low of 0. Your high for today, 9 degrees.
Coming up at the top of the hour on All News Radio, we'll have more as Prime Minister Trudeau says Canada will not settle for less when it comes to respirators. This as roughly 8 million of the 11 million N95 masks that were shipped from China have failed to meet specifications. And ahead of the May long weekend, provincial parks in Ontario are due to reopen come Monday. This as some non-essential businesses in that province open their doors on Saturday. It's the beginning of patio season, but most Canadians